My best friend is literally wearing meta glasses around me every single time we meet up. And even though I've told her that I don't feel comfortable around these glasses, and she's also lied about why she needs them, she still demands that she has them on anytime we hang out. And now I'm feeling paranoid that she's literally recording me all the time, putting me in a situation where I really just don't know what to do. Welcome back to Am I the Jerk? And this first story is a weird one because the original poster's friend is adamant about this. Like, they refuse to take these glasses off, and it is causing a lot of problems. So yeah, get ready for this one because this could easily happen to you. Subscribe to Am I the Jerk and hit the bell to turn on notifications. And with that, let's get started. Okay, so my friend, as the title suggests, is constantly wearing Meta smart glasses around me. And I recently told her I'm uncomfortable around recording capable glasses because they make me feel watched and unable to speak freely. Now, she told me they were prescription glasses and that she paid extra to get them prescribed because she needed them to see. But then later, in front of another friend, she admitted they were not prescribed. When I pointed out that she had previously told me they were prescriptions, she denied ever saying that at all, even though I remember the entire conversation clearly because it was only like a few days ago. Now, the reason this bothers me so much is because from the very beginning of our friendship rekindling, she always had these glasses on around me specifically. She even told me at first that she got them from her mom because her mom wasn't using them, which directly conflicts with the lie she told me a few days ago. Anyways, every single time we hang out, she wears them, even when we're literally just sitting in my house talking. She has perfect vision and says she's not listening to music or on a call either. What also makes me suspicious is that the reason we've even become close in the first place was because she exposed one of my ex-friends by showing me a private text message and even put me on a three-way call with that friend while she was talking badly about me. So I already know that she's the type of person who exposes, or at least involves herself in other people's private conversations and drama. Another thing that stood out to me is that one of the first times we hung out again, she kept trying to get me to say the name of someone I hooked up with while she had the glasses on. And I just remember feeling super uncomfortable about this because it seriously felt like someone was holding a camera in my face asking for private information. Recently, I just told her straight up, look, the glasses are making me uncomfortable. There are so many videos online now of people secretly recording others with meta glasses. So I said to her, I don't want to be around them all the time. I never outright accused her of recording me, and I only said I don't feel comfortable around the glasses themselves. And my God, her reaction to this was extreme. She started calling me crazy, repeatedly cursing and cussing me out, and eventually stormed out of my house, all because I said I don't want to be around glasses that can possibly record me all the time. Now, at this point, I honestly feel like she's either A, been recording conversations this entire time, or she's just incredibly defensive and disrespectful. So I really need to know, like, someone please give me some clarity here. Am I really the jerk for not wanting to be around meta glasses all the time, especially after the lying and her reaction to me saying this? Like, was she just secretly recording me the entire time? Because this lady literally has perfect vision, and at this point, I just don't know what to do. Dude, I don't know why you're still hanging out with her. Like, I gotta be completely honest with you. This is like a huge red flag. It's obvious she's trying to catch you in something. She wants to record every conversation so she can like expose you in the exact same way she exposed your friend. And that in and of itself is just super sketchy, dude. Like, what's happening right now? It's also really kind of telling that she's already pretty much lying about why she had these meta glasses on. Because at first she tried to be like, oh, they're prescription. It's fine. I definitely need them. And then she told her friends that, oh no, I don't need them for prescription. And then it switched again because apparently her mom just got them for her. They weren't even like prescription that she got specifically. And now you're like, dude, she's got perfect vision. Like, what's going on right now? So in my opinion, I think she's trying to secretly record you and get something on you. She's clearly trying to get information and use it against you. And the best evidence of that is her being like, okay, say the name of the person you hooked up with. Just say it real quick. I want to hear it. And it's like, my God, she's being so obvious about recording somebody. Like, get a life. So no, you're not the jerk because honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would be running and not walking away from this friend. They're clearly not a good person. They're obviously trying to catch you in something to like expose you or something like that. And that, in my opinion, is super toxic and you definitely don't deserve to deal with that. If you like Am I the Jerk and what we're doing over here, please check out Am I the Genius. It's going to be linked down below in the description. Just click and go ahead and subscribe to them. And also, if you have your own stories you want to submit, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you want to submit your own stories. We're reading them all the time and we're picking out the best ones, so trust me, we would love to hear what you have to say. My best friend of 20 years has cheated on his wife in a way that has wrecked my family and his, because it really feels like our relationship and like our connection has completely fallen apart. And now I really don't know how to handle this, and I'm just not sure what to do moving forward. Here's basically where things started. Okay, so I've known a man named Tom for about 20 years, and we've known each other since we were teenagers. We were good friends in high school, best friends in college, and continued into adulthood. He was a groomsman in my wedding and would have been my best man if I didn't have a brother. All my life, he's been a model individual. He's been generous, outgoing, empathetic, respectful, he has integrity, he makes good choices, etc. Picture literally the best person you know, and that's Tom. So essentially, his infidelity is the biggest unexpected reveal of my entire life. Now, my wife's best friend in the world is his wife, who I will call Laura, and they've been close for like 15 years. Both were bridesmaids for each other, and I considered her a good friend as well. Our two couples spend holidays together, we have birthdays, we travel together, etc. They live 10 minutes away from us, and they've got 2 kids. They named us their godparents for their kids, and they both call us aunt and uncle respectively. Also, both my wife and I have always seen Tom and Laura as relationship goals. They're kind, loving, respectful, great parents, good communicators, and they're stronger together. So to say that we're crushed about the situation is an understatement. I've never felt this awful through health scares or deaths in the family. Like literally you name it, nothing has ever felt as bad as this. I'm sleeping horribly, I dwell on it throughout the day, I'm constantly distracted by it, and it just really sucks. For just a little bit of context of our lives recently, we've entered the period where we're all just collectively all very busy with careers, family, etc., and haven't spent quite as much time together recently. I've also had some severe health issues and surgeries over like the past 6 months that have pretty much prevented me from interacting in person with others and occupied literally most of my time. While those things have pretty much passed at this point, I prioritize my health over being as in touch regularly with Tom during that time. My wife and Laura continue to be very close throughout that and have been texting and talking pretty much daily. Now on to the affair that I really want to talk about. Laura found out this past weekend that Tom had been sleeping with another woman that he met through work for like 6 months. Laura told my wife the next day and gave her permission to tell me. Laura had like maybe very minor suspicions, but stumbled into concrete evidence of cheating and even confronted Tom, to which he admitted to it. I don't want to share too much of the details, but the affair itself was very spicy, if you know what I mean. And he brought her with him in secret on work trips, and yeah, he was successful doing that. So it's pretty obvious that Tom has been working really hard to hide the relationship. The situation is evolving, but my wife and I believe they're likely to get divorced, as opposed to trying to like make it work for the kids' sake. And I'm seriously anticipating a difficult custody and asset battle in the future. I think overall I just feel blindsided and betrayed by Tom. I realize it's a completely false narrative in my head, but I wonder if I could have supported him or had a preventative impact on this if I had just been more involved in his life recently, instead of just being focused on my health and recovery. I know he's been really stressed out with work and travel and a young family, and he's been seeing a therapist for months for general support, but I only have received details about the affair through Laura's point of view. But apparently during her confrontation, he said he's been unhappy in the marriage for a long time. They also had started like couples therapy about 6 weeks ago, while the affair itself was already in full swing. Now, cheating is cowardice, plain and simple, and I don't think I could forgive my spouse if I was in this situation. That being said, these are our best friends. The situation is complicated based on our close relationships and their children, and I don't know how I should be responding. I mean, do I stay impartial? I'm not sure how I can. I mean, I feel betrayed by the Tom I've known for 20 years. Do I side with Laura since Tom hid a mistress from her for months? Is there any world where I could be friends or like maintain a relationship with Tom after this? I absolutely loathe the idea of losing such a long, close friend after such an unexpected and especially out of character reveal, but I'm also struggling to understand how I can possibly stay close to him after this. That really feels like justifying his actions. I have never had to cut a friendship because of abominable behavior, let alone my oldest and best friend. This entire affair is extremely out of character for Tom. I've known him for almost 2 decades, and despite the clear admission of guilt, I kind of feel like I owe it to him to sit down and ask for an explanation from his perspective of how things eventually led to this point. My wife and I love their kids and want to be in their lives forever, especially with our godparent relationship. Laura is of course my wife's best friend, and I don't think my wife will ever forgive Tom. She does recognize my relationship with him and has basically said that she'll support me however I choose to proceed. So I basically need perspective on how I should walk a line with my future responses or actions towards both Laura and Tom, and how I should treat future relationships with them, given the impending split of their family, my wife and I's individual relationships with both of them, and our desire to still be involved long-term with their children. Like seriously, what should we do? Because we feel very lost right now. Okay, first and foremost, I really think you need to take a step back and stop trying to be like, oh man, if I had just been there, maybe this wouldn't have happened. Because guess what? Even if you were there, it probably still would have happened. In fact, Tom probably would have confided in you, and then you really would be on the hook to say something. So definitely get that out of your head. Like, you're not responsible for this at all. You literally had surgery and all this other stuff going on. Like, even if you were there, Tom probably still would have done this. And yeah, you've got it right. Tom's a piece of crap, and you really should feel that way. But that doesn't like ignore the fact that you've known him for a while. So I know if I was in your shoes, I definitely would talk to Tom about it. I would be like, dude, what happened? Why did you do that? Or at least have some kind of conversation. If you've known him for that long and you really are that close with him, then I think having some kind of talk really would be good for probably the both of you. Then you can find some kind of closure in this and at least move on if you need to. And obviously you want to be involved in like the kids' lives and all this other stuff. But in my opinion, and I really mean this, it might be a good time to take a step away from this friendship and be like, hold on, wait a second. You cheated on your wife. This is not okay. And we can't be as good of friends like we used to. Like, unfortunately, that's just the nature of the beast. Like, he betrayed his wife and he did something absolutely unacceptable. And that for me is like a mark of like, okay, we got to take a step back. We're not best friends anymore. We're just good friends, or at least like former best friends. I got to get some distance between me and you. Like, that's what I would do immediately. I would take a step back and be like, okay, I got to get some time to like recalibrate and see what's happening here. Because sure, you want to hear it from Tom's perspective and like try to understand his motive behind doing this, but the end result is still the same. Laura's been betrayed, the kids have been betrayed, and Tom is literally at fault. And just because you've known him for 20 years doesn't suddenly mean that, oh yeah, it's fine, it's Tom, right? He's like this perfect person that I look up to and all this other stuff. Like, no, dude, that time is gone. Like, you literally need to look at him in the way that he is actually being portrayed right now. And that's as a cheater and a homewrecker, and that's not okay. So no, you could not have stopped Tom from doing this, and also it's time to be on Laura's side. Because at the end of the day, no matter how you feel about this, Laura is the one who's been betrayed. Tom cheated on her, and there's concrete evidence of that. So pretty much no matter what you do, it has to be from that lens of perspective, in my opinion. Because I think anything besides that will be incredibly hostile and very inappropriate. Because Laura and the kids are the real victim here, and Tom is the reason why this is all falling apart. Would I be the jerk for leaving a 3-year relationship for a job opportunity? As I really feel like this job would be good for me. And at this point, my girlfriend's kind of holding me back, and I just don't know what to do from here. Here's basically what's happening. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I've been in a relationship for about 3 years. It's been really on and off with a lot of ups and downs, and there's been broken trust on both sides, there's been arguments, and there's been disrespect during fights. I've also caught her on Tinder multiple times, and we've taken breaks where she saw other people. Well, recently I got a really good job opportunity that would require me to move. And this is something that could seriously help my future and get my electrical license. And I also have support from friends and family if I take it. But the problem is the relationship has gotten really intense. When I've tried to end things, she's begged me not to, had panic attacks, and said she'll do anything. She's talked about wanting to get married and even tried to make big plans like moving in together soon. One time when I tried to leave her place, she wouldn't let me leave right away. And I literally had to tell her, oh, I'll think about staying just to get out of the situation. She's also been saying that her current living situation is partly my responsibility because we've been talking again, which I don't agree with at all. Right now, she's been very sweet and putting in effort, but it feels like it only happens when things are about to end, and then it goes right back to the same cycle. I've told her recently that I'm thinking about not taking the job just to avoid conflict, but the truth is I do want to go. I feel stuck because every time I try to be firm, it turns into hours of emotional conversations and I end up feeling guilty. At this point, I feel like the only way I can actually follow through is to just leave by moving without another in-person conversation, because those always turn into pressure and I just can't stick to my decision. So am I really the jerk for wanting to leave and for not even wanting to tell her? Because like, honestly, we're not together at the moment and we just hang out often and she wants to get back together. And at this point, I just don't know what to do. Man, this sounds incredibly weird and like one-sided. It sounds like you're done with this relationship, but she's like, oh, please don't leave. Don't do that. Like, bro, if I was in your shoes and I had a job opportunity like this, I would never let someone like this hold me back. Like, come on, dude. You gotta have some kind of backbone here. Like, you gotta say like, okay, this is what's best for me and this is exactly what I'm gonna do. Because otherwise, you're gonna be stuck with this lady for God knows how long. Like, she's just gonna toss and turn and throw you all over the place and probably still want to go on another break to see other people, which is also a huge red flag. And what about the part where it's like, oh yeah, you can't leave until you say you're gonna think about staying? Like, no, dude, that would be like the first and only time that would happen, because I would cut her out of my life so quick she wouldn't know what was happening. So no, you're not the jerk for wanting to leave. Like, bro, in my opinion, I think you should just do it already. Rip the band-aid off and get on with your life, because this lady's just gonna hold you back, and that is not something you should deal with. My entitled mother is trying to dictate my relationship values, as she literally hates my boyfriend for the stupidest reasons possible. And despite me trying to explain exactly what's going on, she still just refuses to see reason, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, so my boyfriend and I have been together for 6 years, and we've been living together for 3. We have a really good relationship, and he is everything I've ever wanted in a partner. We both have had like difficult childhoods due to neglect and like mistreatment, and although we have grown as people and learned to forgive our parents, it's pretty clear that that these events still affect us to this day. We recently had a conversation about how we struggle to get along with the other person's parents because of how badly they harmed us as children. However, we're always very polite and cordial with them. Despite this, my mother uses every opportunity to criticize my boyfriend over minor things. If I take the initiative as a woman to do like do-it-yourself projects around the house, she will complain about him not helping me and letting me do the man's job. My sister often chimes in to defend my mom's perspective. I mean, as a side note, they could both be very volatile, and has told me that my boyfriend is not a real man, all because I painted the kitchen on my own when he was away visiting family. Now, I obviously don't tell them every time my boyfriend washes the dishes or cleans the house, etc. I mean, why would I? So they automatically just assume that he doesn't do it because I don't talk about it. My mom has had a very negative experience with my father in the past, so I understand why she would be apprehensive, but she takes it way too far and insults my partner and almost insinuates awful things about him. If I try to offer an explanation or anything like that, she will flip the narrative and tell me that I just can't rely on him. No matter what information I give her, she is never satisfied, and she's constantly looking for red flags that are definitely not there. I should also clarify that she's the one who emotionally and physically mistreated me as a child, which makes this whole thing very ironic if you ask me. So seriously, has anyone dealt with this before? Nothing I say will ever satisfy her, and it's like she's resigned to creating her own narrative instead of accepting the truth. What should I do here? Because this has gone on for far too long and it's honestly just super exhausting. Okay, in my opinion, anytime someone's acting like this, where they're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna jump to some conclusion that isn't real. Like for me, that's like the perfect indicator of like, okay, you're going on an information diet. I'm only gonna tell you exactly what you need to know and nothing else. Because you said it best, dude. Like no matter what you say, they're still being like, oh yeah, he's awful. He's just like your father. I knew it. And it's like, dude, just because your relationship fell apart doesn't mean mine's going to. Like, come on, that is obnoxious, dude. There's no reason to make that kind of like leaping assumption about anybody. It's almost like your mom just wants this to be true. She wants you to feel the pain that she's felt with your father, all the way to the extent where she's just making things up. Like she's digging desperately for any kind of red flag here. She just really wants to find some dirt on this guy. And if all she's got is some mundane like, oh, he's not helping out enough around the house, then you can know for a fact she's full of crap and she just doesn't deserve to know anything about him. So yeah, your mom is being a massive jerk in this situation. She legitimately has no proof of your boyfriend being a terrible partner or anything like that. So at least hold on to that if she starts acting up again, and just know that she literally has no idea what she's talking about. Today, I caught my colleague rubbing her perfume on my clothing at work, which kind of puts me in a weird position because I truly thought we were just friends, but now I'm kind of suspecting that something else might be going on. And at this point, I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, I want to start off by saying that my female colleague and I are good friends at work. We always sit together on lunch break and we laugh and joke, and honestly, it's just a great friendship. She is really attractive, but I've never made a move on her because she is married, but she's hinted to me that she isn't that happy and mostly just stays with him for the sake of her 6-year-old kid. For reference, I'm 28 years old and she's 37. Anyway, today in our lunch break, it was just us in the room, and I went to the restroom, and when I came back, I saw her through the glass panel, and it looked like she was rubbing the sleeve of her clothing on my jumper. Or maybe she was just moving it or something like that, but it looked like she was rubbing her clothing on my clothing. Well, when I opened the door, she instantly stopped. I didn't say anything at the time, and we just carried on like normal for the rest of the break, but it was still weird. Well, once I put the jumper on, I could smell her perfume on my jumper, and it's the same perfume that she always wears. Like, it's this very distinct smell. So all through the rest of the day, I had her perfume smell on my jumper. Even now, I'm at home and I can still smell it just a little bit. I had actually noticed this once before, but I assumed it was because I was just in like close proximity to her. Maybe I hugged her that day or something like that. I don't really know. Like, truly, I completely forgot about it. She's really attractive and all that other stuff, but I just don't know how to handle this going forward, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna say this as honestly and as clearly as I possibly can. Dude, you had better not sleep with this lady. First off, it is weird for anybody to be like, okay, I need to put my scent on your clothing. Let me rub my perfume all over your jumper. That way you can smell like me for the rest of the day. Like, that's some weird psycho stuff, in my opinion. Like, that doesn't sound normal at all. And I just can't think of any good reason why anyone would do that. And also, you've got to see the red flags here, right? Like, sure, she might be attractive, but dude, she's married. She has a 6-year-old kid. And And from the sounds of it, and just from like my perspective, it really seems like she's trying to like drop hints at you. She's almost saying like, oh yeah, I'm really unhappy in my marriage, but you know, whatever, let's still like talk and have a good friendship. Like, I'm almost convinced she wants something more out of this than she's letting on, and that is really sketchy. I mean, why else would she be rubbing herself up on your jumper? Like, that's really creepy if you ask me. So I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I would be distancing myself immediately. I would tell myself that, hey, if I stick around this lady, she's probably gonna ruin my career. So for me, I probably would like slow roll cutting this person out of my life entirely. I would take the steps necessary to be like, okay, we're gonna take a step back from this and I'm going to move on with my life. I'm going to slowly fade into obscurity and make sure that you never hear from me ever again. Because I think that she thinks this is gonna become so much more than a good friendship. Like, based on the way she's acting, it kind of leads me to believe that she wants this to become like a work affair instead of just a friendship itself. Because her actions are super sketchy and I would just definitely be on high alert. An entitled jerk in line at Disney gets angry with me after I let a disabled family go ahead of him, saying that this isn't equal treatment and that he should go next as well. And I'm honestly still blown away by this guy's idiotic attitude. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this is a story from my time working at a very popular theme park in Florida. This situation happened when I worked in attractions. One day during a moderately busy period, I was the Fast Pass line greeter. I noticed a man pacing from the Fast Pass machines to the entry lines a few times. I believe he was checking the time display at the top. If guests already had a fast pass for one ride, there was a certain time they would have to wait before obtaining another one, even if it was for another ride. The man seemed annoyed, but he didn't say anything. Well, a family walked up and presented a disability access service pass. This pass was given to people with different disabilities that made waiting in long lines incredibly difficult. Most allowed access to the fast pass lane, while a few allowed direct access onto the ride. This particular family was allowed to enter into the fast pass line, which had a much shorter wait than the standby line. Well, the man witnessed this interaction and waved me over to the fast pass machines. I asked my coworker, the single ride greeter, to look after my position while I assisted the man. He then asked about this pass and why it allowed the family such easy access to the fast pass line. In fact, he wanted to know where he could get one. So, without mentioning the family's personal business, I explained what a disability pass was. But when I did, this man became incredibly angry. He said to me, well, I want to be let into the fast pass line as well. I asked him, well, do you have a fast pass? And he said to me, well, I can't get one yet, but I don't think it's fair that they could just walk in. I tried to explain that they have a disability pass, but he actually said to me, so because I'm not disabled, I don't get equal treatment? I paid a lot to be here. Why is it fair that they get to skip the line and I can't? Now, very rarely am I actually stunned into silence, but I simply couldn't believe that he was serious. I couldn't believe that he actually thought that way. I then just kind of stared at him for probably a full minute until he spoke up again. He looked at me and said, well, and I just responded back by saying, life isn't fair, sir. You can't enter that line without a fast pass. I apologize. I then just walked away before he could say anything else, because seriously, I was blown away that he actually said this to me. Oh man, talk about being completely obtuse and so out of touch. This man literally said, oh, they get special treatment because they're disabled? And it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Do you hear what you just said? Because in case anyone's wondering, yeah, they should get special treatment. If they're disabled, that's absolutely what they deserve. They're entitled to that. There are literally laws outlining this kind of thing. Like, are you being serious right now? Do you also get pissed off when you can't park at the front of the grocery store because all these disabled people are taking the best spots? Like, dude, what's going on right now? This is crazy. So yeah, if I was in the original poster shoes, I would be stunned as well. Because if someone actually said that to me, I would be stunned to say the least. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My fiance is burning me out because he is literally always struggling financially, especially after he suddenly quit his job right after we got engaged. Because right now, I really just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that we've been together for 4 years. He has struggled financially pretty much always, and I have not. I've worked my butt off to be financially stable, and it's important to me that I stay that way. I encouraged him to find a stable job, and he did and was finally getting ahead financially. But after more than a year of his financial stability, we decided to move in together and he proposed. Shortly after the proposal, he unexpectedly just quit his job. I know he was burnt out and the work environment wasn't great, but it was a steady income. It was a big shock to say the least, but I tried to be supportive since I knew he was stressed to the max, and that's what partners do after all. He told me that he would at least find a side gig in the next few months while he worked on building his own business, and that at least slowed down my stress for the time being. Well, it's been 5 months now and he still hasn't found anything to bring in income, but he is working on building a business. Now, the business is not not likely to bring in any income for at least several more months, and I'm not sure if it will at all because I haven't seen any progress. I do try to ask him about it, but he's still in the building phase and hasn't tried to find clients who will need the work he provides yet since he just isn't ready. I think it's a good business idea, but I worry about the actual execution. Meanwhile, he has debts he is responsible for and has burned through his money. I have loaned him some, and yet the payback date has come and gone. He asked me to help cover his car payment and gas since he uses the car to help care for my kids. I told him I was uncomfortable with that, and it turned into a multi-day argument. He's now asked me to cover his debts while he works on his business and reframes it as me investing in him because we are building a partnership together. And trust me, I get that, but what he's asking for feels indefinite to me, and when I try to put an end date to it, conversations turn vague, and I'm left feeling like I don't believe in him and I'm just unwilling to support him. And maybe I am unwilling to support him this way financially, and that's why I'm feeling so burnt out. I want to be a supportive partner, but I feel like I'm possibly being taken advantage of. I can also see the side where sometimes things are tough, but partners have to support each other through sickness, health, rich and poor. I mean, that does make sense, right? I'm having a hard time because he is able-bodied and capable of bringing in income. I haven't seen any urgency or work towards at least doing something in the interim while he tries to build up his company, and that's what I need to see. When I bring this up, he always says he's working on something for his business, for a couple of weeks until he can get the next step going, almost like he doesn't have time for a side job. And I guess I feel like having money to pay current expenses is more important immediately, and he should work on building his business on the side of that rather than the other way around. I'm able to pay all the expenses, but it's making me feel financially claustrophobic, if that even makes any sense. I have goals that I have to sideline since I have his extra expenses at the moment. When I tell him I'm at capacity and I can't cover his expenses, I somehow end up feeling like I'm unsupportive and that I don't believe in him, which isn't the case. I just want him to cover his own life. He tells me everything is always mine or his, and we don't think of everything together. So seriously, what's the line between being supportive and being taken advantage of? What's the line between able to bring in income and willing to bring in income? I feel like he sees my income as sufficient for our life, so we're fine, but honestly, I'm overworked and overwhelmed, and I would like to have some breathing room where I could take a small step back at work. But when I talk about this, he says he will just work until he's 90 then, and it honestly just feels very unproductive, and I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, I've got to be completely honest, it really does seem like he's taking advantage of you. Like, this guy literally locked you down and got married to you and then suddenly just quits his job. And now he's like, oh, I need all this money for my business, while never committing to getting a job to try and fund that business. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Why should you be the one person loaning out money to him for a business that isn't even starting up? Like, it seems like he almost found you on purpose so that you can basically bankroll his life and he can do whatever he wants with this business that clearly is going nowhere. So no, you're not unreasonable for being burned out over this, because I think I would definitely be burned out over this. You literally want to break, and this guy's like, well, I'll just work until I'm 90. And it's like, oh, okay, buddy, but what are we going to do between now and then? Because what he's asking for, in my opinion, is completely irrational and kind of crazy, which I'm willing to guess is not what you signed up for in the slightest. An entitled Karen made me cry at work as I was literally just trying to do my job as a waitress, as she treated me lower than dirt in a way that I've never been treated before in my life. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old female and I'm a full-time nursing student and a part-time waitress. It's not glamorous, but it's how I afford tuition, rent, gas, and cheap coffee to keep from passing out between class and my other shifts. I'm tired, I'm always broke, and I'm trying my best. This morning I had a Sunday brunch shift, which is essentially the Hunger Games in apron form. I'm already running on 4 hours of sleep and half a granola bar. But things go from bad to worse when the entitled Karen of this story walks in. She's in her mid-50s with a Chanel bag and gives off an energy that could freeze boiling water. I greet her with my usual, hi, welcome in, how are you today? But it's here that she immediately cuts me off. Coffee, black, don't talk to me like we're friends. So I think to myself, okay, got it. She's one of those people. I bring the coffee and she starts picking me apart like I'm a character flaw. This table's crooked, my toast is too hard. Why are your shoes dirty? Then came the line that absolutely broke me. After I brought her eggs for the third time because the first two weren't sunny enough, she looks at me dead in the eyes and says, is this really the best you can do? No wonder you're a waitress. My hands were literally shaking. I didn't even know what to say. I just stood there frozen, blinking fast to keep the tears in. And then she smiled. Not in a kind way like she was satisfied, but it was almost like she had won. When she was done, she scribbled $0 on the tip line, stared at me one last time, and walked out like she hadn't just kicked someone while they were down. Now, what did my manager do? Well, they just shrugged and said, some customers are difficult, let it go. But I couldn't, not really. I went into the walk-in freezer and I cried like someone had flipped a switch. Quiet, ugly sobs while frozen peas dug into my back. What she doesn't know is that I worked until 2 o'clock in the morning last night, that I studied during my 10-minute break, and that I'm trying, that this isn't just a job, it's survival. And the worst part about it is that I still had to smile to take the next table like nothing happened. So to that woman, I will say that you didn't break me, but you made today a whole lot harder than it needed to be. And to the older man at table 9 who saw my red eyes and left a $10 tip with the words "hang in there," you will never know how much that meant to me. This job isn't easy. Life isn't easy, but I'm still here and I'm still trying, even if some entitled Karen refuses to tip me. Okay, first of all, I'm so sorry that this idiot treated you like that, but oh my gosh, don't even think about that for a second. This lady is miserable. You would never want to trade places with her because I guarantee you, she lives a miserable, cold life with no love or anybody who cares about her. In my opinion, the way you treat service workers is a direct reflection of who you are on the inside. And this Karen is straight up rotten, like rotten to the core. She is not a good person. And it's so funny to me that she's like, "Oh, no wonder you're a waitress." As if being a waitress makes you less of a person. Like, my God, what an idiot. The fact that she thinks she can treat you like that and be like, "You're below me because you're a waitress," that's proof in and of itself that she's a bad person, because she clearly expects some kind of service, but she wants you to be miserable in the process. So seriously, don't think about this for a second. This lady is out of her mind crazy, and I guarantee you that she is incredibly unhappy in her miserable, weird life, because chances are she has nobody left in her life because she's burned every bridge you could possibly think of. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that it's not our responsibility to somehow be responsible for all the bills and their debt as well? Because right now she's saying that because we live in her house, it is somehow still our responsibility as well. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I recently had a fight with my mom because my sister called out of work out of exhaustion. She works at a restaurant that overworks and mistreats her. I recently got out of a place like that again as well because it started to affect my own mental health. Well, my mom got mad at her because my sister and I have been helping pay most house expenses, and calling out is a loss of money. She says that we can't keep leaving jobs no matter the environment because there are things that have to get paid for. She currently doesn't have a job, and my stepfather is not very good at managing money, so we are behind on various payments and they are in terrible debt. Well, I got upset at her for getting upset at my sister because she has been putting up with a lot for something that I feel is not our responsibility or faults. She got upset saying that we live in the house, so of course we are responsible. The back and forth continued, with her bringing up irrelevant things, like if I lived with my grandma, she wouldn't accept this behavior. We are close to losing our house, and this stress has been getting to me for a long time. I haven't even been able to get my own place because I put hundreds of dollars a month into this place. I even pay half of my family bills, and things are still tight. They even want me to take out a loan to help pay for bills that are behind, and ask my sister to sell side merchandise just to pay things off, even though they know that means a lot to her. I feel like I should be grateful to have a place to live in, and that complaining about everything that I have to pay for is entitled, but my other sister, who wasn't raised with me, disagrees, saying that the situation is unfair and that my parents are acting unfairly. So seriously, am I the jerk for getting mad at my mom about our situation? Because right now I really don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, this is some crazy crap. Why on earth are you responsible for any of their debts? Just because you live there doesn't mean you're somehow responsible. Like, if anything, they only want you there so they can milk you of more money. They're just trying to siphon as much money out of you and squeeze you for every drop. And that is literally not fair. Like, you guys don't deserve this. And from the sounds of it, the original poster literally said that the stepdad makes $100,000 a year. And it's like, buddy, how on earth are you still not paying off your own debt when you're making 6 figures a year, man? Like, what's going on? So no, there's no reason for you to be treated this way. And honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would start knocking on grandma's door and being like, "Look, can I please get into your place for like 6 months so that I can save up and find my own place to live?" Like, this is some crazy behavior, because the way your mom is treating you is not fair and you don't deserve that in the slightest. An entitled rich jerk throws a temper tantrum after I walk off a job because of the way he was talking to me, resulting in this idiot saying he's gonna go to corporate just to try and get me fired. Here's how it all went down. Okay, to start things out, I work in pest control, and recently I was at a customer's property doing their monthly service. These customers are a married couple in their late 60s or mid 70s, and they seem to be fairly wealthy. I had done their service 2 times prior, as this particular account was signed up and serviced by another colleague who ended up being forced to resign from the company, so my boss gave the account to me. They have 2 separate properties that I service. One property is a large industrial shop type building where they store a bunch of luxury vehicles and a high-end RV, whereas the second property is their personal residence. Now, these customers are very difficult to work with. They're never available when you call and try to schedule their monthly service. They're literally always out of town, always on vacations, and both have an extremely pretentious way about them, and they are just the embodiment of rich, white, and entitled. It's easy to tell that these people have never struggled financially substantially in their lives and think that they're better than you and that you should feel honored to be in their presence. Anyways, I arrive at the shop first and the husband is there because it's all gated in and he needs to be there to give me access to the property and the shop. Well, this guy's the most unfriendly, abrasive person I've ever encountered in my life. I finish up the service and I tell the guy everything is good and I'm heading over to his home now. He then says, "Are you gonna spray?" And for reference, the plan they have with us includes 2 sprays per year in which we spray the exterior of the home and buildings with a pesticide that keeps ants and general insect pests away for a while. I tell him no, I sprayed last service, which I absolutely did. I then tell him there's no need to spray for this month and I explain to him that he only gets 2 sprays per year with his plan. I then advised him that I could do a spray next service, but he didn't like that. He then states, "Well, Aaron, who was the previous technician who signed up the account, sprayed every single service." But I said that Aaron was also basically fired from the company and he should not have been doing that. The guy then says, "Well, I don't think we're getting what we're paying for." And by the way, this guy pays $100 a month to have his large home and large shop serviced, and he was getting free sprays on top of that every month for who knows how long. $100 a month is what I would charge for a small cafe or a restaurant, and this guy's already paying way less than what he should be. He then says he's gonna call the head office just to complain. At this point, I don't feel like arguing with this guy, and I'm just done dealing with the account altogether, so I just tell him flat out, if he doesn't like our service, he can go somewhere else. And when I say that, he's now incredibly pissed off. He says to me, "Oh really? So you just don't give a crap?" I try to stay professional, and I tell him that he seems to have a personal issue with us now that Aaron is not doing his service anymore. I tell him there's nothing further that I can do for him. He then says he's gonna call the office, and I say, okay, that's fine. And I ask him if he still wants his home service done today. He then asks me, have I already paid for it? And I say yes, as his wife prepays for the year. He then says to me that you better get your butt over there right there and then. He was so angry, and it's like, oh my gosh, absolutely not. So I tell him, okay, we're done here, you're on your own. And I calmly walk to my truck and I leave. Once I'm off the property, I advise my supervisor of the situation, and then I start documenting the interaction in the service report. While I'm doing the service report, this idiot has the nerve to actually call me and ask if I'm going to his house to do the service. But I say to him straight up that no, I'm not going to be spoken to that way or be ordered around like a dog. I tell him to cancel his contract, get a refund, and find someone else. I even gave him the name of our competitor that he could call. His final words to me were to say, "You think you're the boss? You can kiss my butt, you idiot." And then he promptly hangs up like the entitled man baby that he is. I mean, real mature, pal. Afterwards, his wife contacts our branch office and advises the customer service reps that she wants to speak with both managers and that her husband is going to go to social media about this grave injustice. My supervisor ended up speaking with his wife on the phone, and my supervisor told me after that he could hear the husband throwing a temper tantrum in the background because apparently if I come back to his property, I'm gonna be arrested. So I'm truly glad that I never have to deal with these entitled morons ever again, because seriously, good riddance, especially if you're gonna talk to me or my coworkers in that manner. Okay, I love what the original poster did because this is fantastic. You stood up for yourself against some idiot who thought they could boss you around, because this couple was just completely out of their mind. Like, I don't care how old or how rich you are, you're not gonna talk to someone like that and expect any kind of service. It's also nice to see that your supervisor basically had your back as well, because I've worked in businesses before where the supervisor throws you under the bus if you in any way disagree or upset a customer. That's one of the worst feelings on the planet, and I'm so glad you didn't run into that. So yeah, this guy was a complete jerk and he deserved to get shut down in the way that he did. Am I the jerk for throwing away a gift I got for my boyfriend after he literally made fun of it in front of all of his friends one night when we were drinking? Because right now I'm heartbroken and I seriously am so crushed. Here's what's going on. So me and my boyfriend have been dating for about 6 months. A little while ago for his birthday, I made him a small gift. It was a handmade mini scrapbook with some photos, some tickets from stuff that we did together, personal notes, etc. I spent a decent amount of time on it because I wanted to do something thoughtful instead of just buying something generic. When I gave it to him, he was sweet about it and he said that he loved it and put it on his shelf, and I thought that was that. But then a few days later, we were hanging out and drinking with some of his friends, and the topic of his gifts came up. My boyfriend kind of laughed and described mine as middle school relationship core, and his friends actually started laughing at me. He wasn't outright mocking me, but the way he kept describing it all and the contents like it was something childish made me feel really embarrassed. And while I smiled and laughed along, on the inside I felt kind of crushed. I didn't say anything then, but when I got home, I cried. afterwards, I quietly took it and I threw it all away. I know that might sound petty, but I was in my feelings, and it just felt like a joke seeing it now. Definitely not something that was sweet. Like, I was the only one taking it seriously. I know that he doesn't really keep anything sentimental. He keeps his place clean and decorations to a minimum, so maybe I should have just gotten him something practical for his birthday instead of making something he had no use for. Well, yesterday he noticed that it was gone and actually asked me where it went, so I told him I threw it out, and when I explained why, he told me that I was being dramatic. He said it was just a stupid joke, that I always take things too personally, and that if anything, I had overreacted instead of just telling him before. So now I feel kind of dumb. I know he didn't mean to hurt my feelings, but it still really stung, and I'm now wondering if I'm the jerk for taking it so personally and escalating by throwing the thing away because right now he feels like the bad guy. What should I do? Oh man, this is some really messed up stuff if you ask me. Like, you took the time to get a scrapbook together full of photos and stuff that was really important to the both of you, and he just literally sat there and mocked it in front of all of his friends. Like, that is literally super toxic and so embarrassing. And I don't know about you, but like, embarrassing your partner like that is just so weird. I can understand joking around and having that dynamic in public, but to literally go out of your way to humiliate your girlfriend like that is just so strange. She did something kind for you and you're just sitting there like, oh yeah, this is some middle school relationship core. Like, dude, why would you do that? That's so messed up. And if I'm being completely honest, I think throwing it away was way overboard. Like, if anything, maybe take it away from him and put it somewhere else, just to try and get the point across that what he said was messed up. But I think in the end, the point still matters that yeah, what he said was really insulting. Because in my opinion, someone who's willing to make fun of you like that in front of their friends is honestly someone who, in my opinion, is throwing up a lot of red flags. So no, in my opinion, I don't think you're the jerk at all for throwing that stuff away. And I'm just not buying the fact that he's like, oh yeah, well, we were tipsy, I didn't mean it. You're just being over dramatic. Like, that just doesn't stand in my opinion, and I think that's like super weird. Because what he did was super embarrassing and absolutely unacceptable, and you did not deserve that in the slightest. My entitled coworker literally got fired for stealing my earbuds off of my desk, as he literally tried to replace them with some cheap dollar store knockoff, while also trying to gaslight me into believing that the ones he stole were actually his. And I'm honestly so glad this guy got fired because he was incredibly sketchy. Here's what happened. Okay, so this all happened back in 2016. I have a coworker who didn't strike me as a bad guy, but something was just weird with him. He would be cagey about the most innocent topics, as though he wanted to appear mysterious and involved with things that you just don't need to worry about. He really wanted to be perceived as connected and lucrative. And I could go on and on about the weird stuff this guy did, coming to work high on painkillers and openly talking about it after he faked an arm injury and had no prescription, all the way to leasing expensive cars to give off the impression of wealth. Like, this guy thought he was completely untouchable. He would throw parties and invite everyone, and one time I went and it was at a mansion. The entire time he was just posturing and implying that this was his house. But I was chatting with a staff member and she told me he was just house sitting for a family friend or something like that. I mean, this guy was completely full of crap. Now, enough with the context. This is where the story really kicks into gear. I keep a pair of earbuds on my desk at work. They aren't expensive or anything like that, so they would just sit there when I left for the day, because we work in a normal office and nobody steals stupid crap like that. Well, or so I thought. One day I'm sitting there and I realize that something is different about my headphones. It takes me a few seconds, but I realize that the silicone earpieces are black, but before they were opaque white. And I think to myself, wait a second, what's going on? Upon further inspection, my earbuds had been swapped with some dollar store generic ones, like the sort you would get when you fly Economy Plus and they pass them out with the small pretzel packages. My immediate thought was that one of my coworkers is playing a prank, so I go around and I ask everyone what's going on. Now, as you can probably guess, I did a lot of foreshadowing already, so I'm going to just jump ahead. I walk up and this guy had them in plain view on his desk. When I confronted him about it, he swore up and down that they were his and I must be confused. I ended up just grabbing them and throwing the fake ones on his desk and walking away because it was 100% obvious these were mine. Meanwhile, I had already asked half the floor if they were just messing with me earlier that morning. Like, even the manager knew I was looking for those stupid earbuds, presumably on the receiving end of a prank. He then came by and asked me if I ever found them, and I told him exactly what happened. Well, a few hours later, this guy got fired. Apparently, there were a lot of other things that he had done, and they just needed a valid reason to make it happen. In fact, he was here on a work visa and had to move back back to his home country because this guy is the epitome of playing stupid games since today he finally cashed in and won his stupid prize. Oh man, imagine being so sketchy that you literally would steal from a coworker, resulting in you literally getting sent back to your home country. Like if I was in a work visa overseas, I would be on my best behavior. I would literally do everything I can to not get in any trouble because I 100% want to keep my job and not ruin it for myself. And this guy absolutely blew it in my opinion. All he had to do was behave himself and not act like a moron, and he probably would have been just fine. But if his shady behavior wasn't enough, him stealing from the original poster is like the nail in the coffin. So I think overall you did a good thing by catching this guy because these people needed a reason to get rid of him, and you gave him the perfect one right then and there. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled coworker tries to get me in trouble at work, all because I didn't invite her to my wedding. Here's what happened. Okay, so this is honestly one of the weirdest work things I've ever dealt with. There's a woman in my office I'm friendly with, but I'm really not close to. We've had small talk here and there, but it's never been anything deep. We've never had lunches together and had no real outside of work connection. She found out I was getting married and asked when the wedding was, and then she straight up asked if she was invited. I kind of laughed and I said, oh no, it's just really small, just close friends and family. And honestly, I didn't think anything of it. She then got quiet and a little cold after that, but I figured, okay, maybe it's just an awkward moment, but whatever. Well, fast forward a few days later and I get a meeting invite from Human Resources. It turns out she filed a complaint saying that I was being exclusive and creating a hostile environment by leaving people out. And this is all because I didn't invite her to my wedding that I'm paying for that isn't even work related. So I had to sit in this meeting and explain that I'm not required to invite coworkers I barely know to my literal wedding. I explained that it's a personal event and that it has nothing to do with work or who's in the office. Human Resources honestly looked just as confused as I was. They basically said, yeah, okay, thanks, and then they closed the case. But now she acts super passive-aggressive towards me, like side eyes, little digs when I walk by, still bringing up these weird sarcastic comments, saying stuff like, well, some people are so inclusive these days. And I can't believe she actually thought Human Resources could make me invite her. Some people really do think they're the main character, and this lady absolutely fits the bill. Okay, you've got to be a special kind of stupid to complain about this. Like seriously, dude, what are you thinking? Did she really think that Human Resources was going to do anything to change this? Like, dude, what an idiot. Because the original poster has it right. They're not obligated to invite you to the wedding. So yeah, this really was a weird situation, and honestly, it's incredibly funny because this coworker's entitlement was completely out of line. My entitled daughter demands that I hand over my retirement money as she says I need to buy her a house instead of using it for myself when I retire. But after I said no, I'm not going to do that, she called me selfish and has started telling other relatives that I'm hoarding money. And at this point, I'm honestly so heartbroken that I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 55-year-old female and I've been a single mom for most of my life. I worked multiple jobs, I sacrificed vacations, and I skipped luxuries just to give my daughter, who's now 26, a somewhat decent life. She had everything she needed growing up: private school, a used car at 18, even partial support through college. I never asked for much in return, just for her to be responsible and independent. Well, lately she's been pressuring me about my retirement savings. She found out I've been aggressively saving for the past 10 years so that I can retire early and travel, and maybe finally enjoy my life just a little bit. Well, her response was to say, you should use that money to help me get a house. I told her kindly but firmly that I've already done my job as a parent. I'm not rich, I just planned well. And honestly, I deserve some peace. But she snapped at me. She said to me, so you're just gonna be selfish now after everything I went through growing up? But I told her I'm the one who went through a nightmare to try and raise her with some kind of stability. And now she's been giving me the cold shoulder and telling other relatives that I'm hoarding money while she struggles just to make rent. So right now I feel very jaded and honestly very hurt by this, and I just don't know what to do. Okay, honestly, your daughter is incredibly spoiled, and she completely missed the point that, yeah, you sacrifice a lot for her. And just because you've saved a lot of money doesn't mean that she's somehow entitled to it. Like seriously, look at what she's saying right now. She's saying, I think it's time you buy me a house. Oh, you're not gonna do that? Well, guess what? Now you're selfish. I went through so much growing up. And it's like, what do you mean? You had a stable home with a mom who cared about you, and she helped you through college to a certain extent. Like you literally have every advantage in life, and now here you are at 26, trying to act like you deserve this retirement retirement money. Like, dude, what are you talking about? So I know if I was in your shoes, I would not fall for that crap for a second. If she wants to say that you're hoarding money, then congratulations, that's exactly what you're doing. Because this is all manipulative so that she can get this money out of you to buy a house or do literally anything else with it. And I really think that would be a disservice to you since you've saved so much money and done so much to try and secure your future, which by the way, you absolutely deserve to have some kind of peace. Today, I was terminated without any warning, so I decided to get some petty revenge by reporting my former employer for tax evasion. Here's how it's all going down. Okay, so I was working a 1099 position that was bringing in around an extra $3,000 a month. I was able to do this job alongside my full-time job with no issues. I turned in my work on time, I attended all my meetings, and I had even gotten a great report from one of my clients. My job must have suspected I was doing more than one position, however, and they started demanding that I check my email at least once every hour. And even set hours for me as an independent contractor. I had to report when I was out of the office, whether for injury or something else. Well, I pointed out that I was an independent contractor and that none of those things were a contractual obligation. In fact, the entire reason I took the extra work with this company was the flexibility, but they just ignored this and continued to push. Well, a few weeks ago at nearly midnight, I received a termination email. No phone call, not even a text message. I went to log into my computer the next day and I saw my credentials were invalid. I reached out to my supervisor and I was told to check my personal email, with them adding a snide remark of, well, if you even do that, and then that was the end of it. Well, I stewed on this for a few days before I finally did something. I reported them for mislabeling my position as an independent contractor when in fact I should have been a W-2 employee. The IRS has a ton of information on what constitutes an independent contractor and what doesn't, and I met none of the criteria for an independent contractor. They were doing this to avoid paying taxes on their employees and to avoid having to offer insurance. So you know what? I reported them. I would wager that this is still ongoing for them as it's only been a few weeks. I'm not excited about potentially putting people out of work, but I am simply tired of being screwed over by my employers. Okay, I love this because the original poster is standing up for themselves. And my God, this is absolutely the way you want to do it. He's standing on business, man. He is not letting this slide for a second because this employer absolutely was crossing a line here that is just completely unacceptable. So I think that what you did is completely justified and hopefully karma comes to bite them in the butt for the way they treated you. Am I the jerk for taking a walk during my lunch break, despite the fact that some of my coworkers and my parents are saying that I shouldn't be allowed to do that? Here's what's going on. A few years ago, I started working at a job that was more office-based than previous jobs. Because of that, I was moving less and gaining some weight, and I am very out of shape as it is. I'm not overweight, but I'm carrying a little more fat than I'm used to, and I can tell my cardio ability has gone down. Now, I get a 1-hour paid lunch per day. A lot of my coworkers eat at their desk and do very little work, like maybe answering an email if that, but mostly they're just eating. I personally go to my car to eat and then do laps around the parking garage before I go back in. I'm never gone for more than an hour and I always come back on time. Well, recently I did my normal routine. I grabbed my lunch, I went to my car and I ate it, and then I started on my walk. I happened to run into a coworker during my walk, and he was out there because he forgot something and needed something from his car. He then stopped me and asked what I was doing, and I told him that I ate my lunch and now I'm taking a walk before my lunch break is over. Well, he didn't like that answer and said that our lunch break is for eating, not for walking, and that when I'm done eating, I should go back to work. But I told him we're given an hour for lunch, and I want to use all of it in the best way that I can. Now, I think he may have told other people about this because now I've been receiving comments before I go on break that I didn't receive before. I don't think I was wrong. I'm entitled to my break. All my work gets done on time. I take it at about the same time every day, so it's expected I won't be available. And I maybe come back for a few non-urgent emails. I have my phone on me in case someone calls me for an emergency, which honestly just never happened. I talked to my parents about it, and they both said that they work through lunch and that I shouldn't be out walking, but also they're older and they were raised in a different time, so I don't know if I should trust their judgment. So honestly, am I the jerk for taking a walk during my lunch break? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, in my opinion, the second you clock out for your lunch break, you can literally do whatever you want. Maybe you want to go to the bank or go to the grocery store to pick up some groceries or something like that, or even take a walk around the parking garage. What you do with your time is literally your business. So the fact that your coworker is trying to talk about you behind your back and is seriously trying to be like, wow, you should go back to work when you're done eating eating. Like, that's stupid in my opinion and not something I would ever pay attention to, because his opinion literally doesn't matter. An entitled Karen parks in my driveway every single day, claiming that she knows this is my spot, and yet still she's gonna keep using it, which honestly is blowing my mind because I've never met someone this entitled in my life. Here's what's going on. Okay, so one morning I looked out my window to suddenly see a random woman parking in my driveway. For context, my parking spot fits 2 cars, but my partner usually parks there, or my parents do when they come over. The first day this happened, I thought I would give her the benefit of the doubt, as I wasn't sure if she was just mistaken. She looked up from scrolling on her phone and gave me a filthy look, as if to say, "Why are you staring at me?" and then made a gesture with her hand to say that she's leaving. She then sat further for 5 more minutes on her phone, and then she left. Well, the next morning I see the car parked there again, and she's nowhere to be seen. I then decided to leave a note on her windscreen, asking her to please not park there ever again. Well, after a few hours of checking out the window to see if she had come back or not, she eventually arrives with a grin on her face. I asked if she works around the area and told her that it's my driveway and that she cannot park there. Well, to my surprise, she says to me, "I know it is, but I'm just using it." And I said, "You can't park there, I need it, it's my space." She then said to me, "Well, I work around the corner and there's no parking, so I go here." I then pointed to the various spots I could see, and she said she won't park there again. She then ripped up my note, threw it in the drain, and then proceeded to sit in the drop curb, giving me filthy looks before finally driving off. I'm not sure if she's gonna come back, but I assume that she probably will try to do so. So as a result, I've started parking diagonally to stop her from accessing my spot, because this seriously is some crazy behavior. Okay, dude, if someone did this to me, I would give them one chance to be a nice person about it and just move their car, and then that would be the end of it. Because trust me, if someone tried that again, I would happily tow that car. So yeah, you can park your car diagonally, or you can catch her on camera parking there again and then call up a tow truck to get rid of her car. Because her attitude and the way she talked to you is just completely unacceptable, especially because she knows exactly what she's doing. Am I the jerk for not allowing any Airbnb guests to use my patio, since they are literally invading my private space? Here's what's going on. So I bought a flat as an immigrant a few years ago that was all around from the ground up in a country with a bad reputation. Like, even the street and the city it was in was bad as well. I won't say that it was just luck, but the country became an attractive country to visit. The city developed a lot, and my street, being in the center, became very attractive to visitors. Now, my street has been fully renovated, and so has the facade of my building, because thankfully we got public funds for that. And while the inside is still not that great looking, we're honestly just completely fine with that. My flat is the only one that opens to the courtyard, and after speaking to the neighbors, they were all enthusiastic for me to turn my corner of the courtyard into something pretty on whichever way I felt. Now, in this kind of building, it is defined how much each apartment owns of the land, but it's not delimited. So I own, let's say, about 5% of the land. Usually I would use it for the parking space, but it's not like you have delimited parking space, and since I don't drive, I asked my neighbors if I could take the corner next to my door as mine. This was a no parking space, and everyone enthusiastically agreed to let me make a mini garden and patio. After the city and the street blew up with tourism, someone did some legal trickery to buy the flats on top of mine that were supposedly to be safe for low-income people and turn them into an Airbnb. Now, we were not happy about it for many reasons, starting with the fact that those flats were supposed to be for actual low-income people. But this is where the actual conflict comes into play. I let my neighbors use my patio, but I've been kicking Airbnb guests out of it. Apparently, the Airbnb host posts pictures of my little corner of the courtyard as some kind of public space. But I don't think it's a public space since I own part of the land, and the Airbnb owner definitely does not, and has been accepted that this is my portion of the land. Now, the Airbnb owner is saying that he will sue me for discrimination since I share my little patio with the other neighbors, but I don't allow tourists in it, and he's had some negative reviews. Now, I need to emphasize, I'm absolutely safe legally, but when it comes to morally, I need to know, am I the jerk for not allowing tourists in my space, even though I let my neighbors use it no problem? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk at all. This is your private space. This is your private patio, and it's not a public space that anyone can go to. And in my opinion, this Airbnb owner is a complete jerk. He advertised that space as something that anyone could go to. But it's like, dude, you don't own that. Why would you be like, oh yeah, you could come along and go to this place. This is totally fine. Like, no, you can't. This is my private space that I built up. Don't pretend like this is a public space. Like, what's going on right now? So no, you're not the jerk for kicking them off, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for refusing to move out so that my roommate's boyfriend can move in? Because right now I feel very disrespected and I'm not sure if I'm making a mistake. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my roommate and I split our lease 50-50 and currently we're on a month-to-month basis as we have been living here for about a year and a half. Last week she sat me down and told me that her and her boyfriend want to take the next step and move in together. As she was telling me about it, she told me I need to leave and find a new place to live. Well, I'm refusing to leave as I believe that the person who wants to change is the person that should facilitate that, and that I should not have to uproot my life by finding a new place as well as spending the money to move in order to make that happen for her. She says that she is entitled to stay because she made a garden in the backyard and does the majority of the yard work. Also, most of the furniture is hers. And these are things that I've taken into consideration, but ultimately, I decided that I wanted to stay. I also made it clear that I was okay with her staying and her boyfriend moving in since she already has the master bedroom, but they say they want to live without a roommate. So honestly, am I the jerk for refusing to move out? What should I do? Okay, I 100% agree with the original poster. If their roommate really wants to have a new place with their boyfriend, then guess what? They absolutely should be the ones to move out. You should not be expected to uproot your life just so they can have the place to themselves. Like, what's going on right now? Like, this is some crazy behavior and she's just trying to like guilt trip you out of that place. And that sucks. Like, that really is not something you deserve. Because at the end of the day, she is not more important than you. It's not her house to kick you out of, and you literally have the same rights to that space as she does. And if she really doesn't like that, then guess what? She can move out and find a place with her boyfriend, which in my opinion is the only logical solution in this situation. My entitled future mother-in-law demands free salon service all because I'm marrying her son. But I definitely gave her a rude awakening when I told her straight up that that was absolutely not gonna happen. Here's how it went down. I'm a 28-year-old female and I've been dating my boyfriend, who we will call Patrick, for about 2 years now. We both know each other's families, but we chose not to make our relationship public until we were ready to get married. Well, last month we finally made it official and informed his family that we are getting married. Well, while we were with his family, his mom asked me about my livelihood. I told her that I'm a hairstylist and that I own a salon about an hour from their house. Well, when I told her this, her response was to say, "Oh wow, at least now we don't have to pay to get our hair done again. We'll start with ours first so we can see how good you are before you officially become my daughter-in-law." Well, when she said this, I just kind of smiled and didn't say anything. Fast forward to 3 days later and she actually calls me. After the usual small talk, she says, "Please, where's your salon located again?" I gave her the address and she then goes, "Oh, that's too far. I can't come all the way there. I'll need you to come today to braid my hair." So I asked her what style she wanted and I told her the price for home service. Well, she responded by saying, "No, I'm not paying for it. After all, you're going to be my daughter-in-law soon." I then politely told her that I don't offer free home service, especially not for an hour-long trip, and then I just hung up the call. Okay, this is some crazy entitlement in my opinion, because like seriously, did she really think that this was going to be some kind of like free service for life? First of all, this is some real true colors coming through, and it's a massive red flag when it comes to getting into this family. I think the original poster knows that, but like holy crap. Imagine 3 days after finding out you're going to have a new daughter-in-law, you go to them and say, "Oh, I can't wait to take advantage of your business. Drive an hour to my house right now and braid my hair, please." No, I'm not going to pay. Why would I? Like, dude, what are you talking about? This is a horrible first impression. Like, seriously, you're doing a terrible job at being a reliable new in-law in this person's life. Like, this mother-in-law literally just proved that no, she doesn't care about your livelihood, she's gonna try and take advantage of you, and no, she's a tightwad who's not gonna pay you for your service. Which is like, okay, that's like 3 strikes and you're out in my opinion. There's no way I'm ever gonna do anything for you after that again. But I really do love the way you handle this because this is completely unacceptable. You didn't entertain her for a second, you said, "No, I'm not gonna do that," and then you hung up the phone. Because this lady seriously was so indignant that she was like, "Oh, I'm not paying for that." All under the assumption that just because you're daughter-in-law means that you get to circumvent this entire business and get free service. And that, in my opinion, is super toxic. My toxic landlord increases my rent by literally $1,000, claiming that it's all because of inflation. But despite the fact that he raised it well beyond what would be reasonable, I decided to still get some petty revenge by costing this guy an extra $1,000 every single year by doing one thing that he would never expect. Here's what I did. Okay, to start things out, my husband and I moved to Western New York State in August of 2020 during peak pandemic chaos for his job. We sold our house in another state because the idea of being long-distance landlords during a global crisis this sounded like an absolute nightmare. We knew this job wasn't going to be long-term, so we decided to rent so we didn't have to worry about selling a house when we moved to our home state. With 2 kids and a dog, we needed a place in a good school district that also allowed pets. The rental market was tight, but we managed to find a 3-bedroom apartment in a complex that seemed decent. The rent was $2,000 a month. It had a pool, a small gym, a playground, some basketball courts, and a one-time $500 non-refundable pet fee. And honestly, it sounded pretty reasonable. Now, the school district is excellent, and at first, the complex seemed fine. But then reality set in. It turns out that almost every rental in our district is owned by one guy. Yeah, that's right, just one person. He owns most of the rental properties in the area, and his staff handles the day-to-day management. There's constantly changes among his staff, and this is a big red flag. The ones who actually care and fix things quickly just don't seem to last that long. Since we moved in, our rent has climbed from $2,000 a month to $3,000 a month. Now, before people jump down my throat and give me an economics lesson, yeah, I get it. I understand inflation, but a rent bump up to like $2,400 or even $2,500 would account for inflation. And yeah, I used an inflation calculator to try and understand what it should be. But $3,000 for rent is just predatory. When tenants ask about the increase, management claims it's because of rising cost. I've made friends with several of the lifeguards and maintenance workers, and not one of them has received a raise in years. Nothing has been updated in the 5 years that we have been here. Maintenance takes ages now, and the work isn't great. They also closed the pool in mid-August, even though school districts don't start until Labor Day. They say it's because they can't find lifeguards, but the lifeguards have told me directly that they offered to stay and were told no. So basically, the translation means that the owner just didn't want to pay for it. Real estate taxes in the area haven't gone up either, and yes, I did check this, and in fact, they've gone down. Now, you might be wondering, well, why don't you just move? Well, it's because of the schools. That's the main reason we're here. We don't want to uproot our kids, and the landlord knows it. There are virtually no other rental options for this school that he doesn't own. We're not looking to buy either because we're moving back to our home state in a year or two. So basically, we're stuck, just like many other families and retirees in the complex. But with that in mind, this is where my petty revenge comes into play. There are over 150 apartments in this complex, and every single one has had the same kind of price hike. And don't worry, the landlord definitely is not hurting. When he shows up at the leasing office, he pulls in driving some ultra luxury car that costs more than a house. I'm not a car person, so I can't name it, but I looked it up once and it was literally over $500,000. And it's like, seriously, don't show up with a $500,000 car and then tell your tenants that you're barely breaking even. Get yourself a beat up Camry for property visits and at least act like you're struggling. Now here's where things get nice and petty. I remember that when we owned a house, we had an above ground pool with a heater. I didn't realize how expensive it was to run it continuously, so I kept it heated toasty warm for a couple of weeks. But when the energy bill arrived, my husband nearly had a heart attack. And it's like, oh man, that was an accident. But through that, I also learned exactly how pool heaters work. And when it's cool at night and it's only in the 70s during the day, it is very expensive to run a pool heater 24/7. So this past Sunday, on the Sabbath day, the Lord came to me and showed me that the landlord needs to live his truth and help him not break commandment number 9. If he says the costs are rising, then this lady's gonna do the Lord's work. Now, it had rained a few days earlier, and nighttime temperatures dropped into the 60s, meaning that the pool had gone cold. In June, the property manager had turned the heater on when the weather was cool, and so it was nice, but by July, the pool stayed warm on its own. Once the temperature dropped again, the water was freezing. The heater was still off, or at least set too low to actually activate. And of course, the manager of this section definitely got run out just like the rest of them. So I asked the lifeguard, is the pool heater in that little utility room next to the pool? And he said to me, it might be. The door's always open, but I think I'm just gonna look the other way. And they literally laughed as I was like, oh, okay, plausible deniability, smart move. Well, when I checked, the heater was there, and the temperatures were set so low it wouldn't even turn on. But you know what? I changed that immediately. I bumped it up to 85 degrees. I was tempted to go to 90, but that can trigger algae growth, and I want to enjoy the pool, not shut it down. Well, right away, warm water started flowing in, and it was glorious. Everyone at the pool that day noticed and commented on how perfect it felt. The next day, someone must have turned it back down, and I could tell the pool had cooled a little, so it was starting to get a little uncomfortable. So I just went right back over and I turned it up again, and I kept doing this every single day. And because I'm petty and you're here for this long tale, I did the math and I went down an ADHD rabbit hole, and I found a calculator that estimates pool heating costs based on size, outdoor temperature, and the heater settings. And the change in temperature I made will double the heating costs for the last few weeks of the season. I also did some quick math on what the landlord is making from these rent hikes. Even being conservative, he's pulled in an extra $600,000 per year by raising rent far beyond inflation. And he was already making a solid profit before. Look, I don't have a problem with someone making a profit, but I do have a problem with with lying about costs, stiffing your workers, and pushing tenants harder than necessary just because you know they're stuck. If my neighbors are going to be out that money anyways, we are going to enjoy a warm pool. The people who were there this week got to enjoy the results of my small act of righteous rebellion, and so will the rest of the complex for the final weeks of the season. Godspeed, my petty friends, because this guy absolutely deserved it, and I wish I did this sooner. I love this so much because I can't stand landlords who act this way. Like, I know of people who have had really bad landlords, and this definitely fits the bill. They increase your rent, they're like, oh, we're barely scraping by. And then just like what the original poster said, they roll up and they're like completely fine. They've got a great car, they've got a great watch, they've got the newest phone. It's like so ridiculous. So if you turning on that heater cost them a couple extra $1,000, then honestly, this landlord definitely deserves it. Especially if they're gonna hike people's rent up who honestly are just trying to make a living. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I messed up by flying my mom and brother in from Brazil to visit me in the United States. Because right now, my mom has not only tried to ruin my relationship with my husband, but she's also turned my younger brother against me, someone I'm desperately trying to reconnect with after all these years. And at this point, I honestly do not know what to do. Here's what's happening. I live in the United States and hadn't seen my mom or 15-year-old brother in over a year. They live in Brazil and I wanted to give them a special experience. So I paid for everything, including 2 international business class tickets as we used to do once a year, to make them feel comfortable and loved. I had planned this trip with care, especially hoping to reconnect with my brother. But from the moment they arrived, my mom was cold, critical, and manipulative in 2 days. She made passive-aggressive remarks. She would say stuff like, "You could have married better." And she mocked the fact that I cook and care for my home, even though she lives in Brazil with maids and drivers, and she's supported largely by my help. But then things escalated. During a weekend trip, she messaged my husband privately, saying she wanted to speak to him alone. Well, he immediately showed me and told me he wouldn't be entertaining that. But the next morning while I was upstairs, she cornered him at the hotel anyways. He texted me while it was happening because he didn't want this drama or to even entertain this type of behavior because he was clearly uncomfortable with it. When I came down for breakfast, he told her directly, "Anything you want to say should be said between the both of us." But in that private moment, she had already tried. She brought up personal things I did over 6 years ago, trying to throw dirt and stir up doubt in our marriage. But what she didn't expect was that my husband already knew everything. And he asked her calmly and clearly, "Look, I know all of this. What exactly is your goal in bringing this up?" She then started to cry, and he was just all over meetings and asked us to leave the table at breakfast. And later, when we were in the room, I tried to ask why she would do that. Now, for context, we went to a really cool place for a weekend, and she just ruined it. She stayed in the room trying to burn down bridges with my own husband. After we arrive, and when she figured she won't manipulate my husband, and they clash personalities, she locked herself in the room for an entire week. Like, why would my mother try to sabotage her daughter's relationship with a man who is my partner, husband, and we're just so happy together? Well, after that, she tried to play the victim. And slowly, she turned my brother against me. The boy I love like my own son, the one I wanted to reconnect with, now barely looks at me and barely speaks. He stays in the room with her, and I just feel erased in my own home. We have 2 days left, and I'm emotionally drained. I gave them everything: comfort, love, respect, and I'm walking away with silence, manipulation, and heartbreak. What would you do after something like this? How do you recover when your own mother tries to burn down the life that you built and takes your brother with her? What should I do? Okay, first of all, I'm so sorry that this happened because this is not fair for you or your family at all. You literally flew them over to your place and you try to show them a good time and make them feel loved, and more importantly, reconnect with your younger brother, which I completely get. This really is a crappy situation. You don't deserve this, and this really sucks. But on that note, if this doesn't become like a learning lesson, in my opinion, and you now set boundaries between you and your mother, then honestly, this will be a complete waste and she'll try this crap again. I'm not telling you what you should or shouldn't do, but if a family member of mine went to my partner and tried to turn them against me, I would probably immediately start finding ways to cut them out of my life. That's just me though, I can't speak for you, but like, you're literally telling me that you're giving them so much money and support, and she's gonna turn around and act like this? Like, dude, what's going on right now? This is not okay. That kind of garbage is unacceptable. And it really sucks because your brother's 15 years old and he can't really make decisions on his own yet. And to that extent, I'm so sorry, but it probably looks like you're gonna have to wait until he's 18 to really reconnect with him, which sucks. Like, you don't deserve that at all. But for me, I would stop sending money and I would absolutely be like, okay, you You want to treat me like crap? Congratulations, here's a flight home early, figure your life out. Because your mom is clearly taking advantage of you and you do not deserve this treatment in the slightest. Am I the jerk for refusing to take my ex-wife to the ER, even though she literally had other options available to her that could have taken her instead? Because right now I feel kind of like a jerk and I'm not sure what to do. Here's how it all went down. So this incident occurred a decade ago, but recently it came up in conversation with my oldest son, who was 7 years old at the time. While I believed I was justified in the moment, over the years I have come to the conclusion that I am not proud of my actions that day, even though my son maintains that I did the right thing. 6 months prior to this incident, my wife and I had agreed to divorce after her extramarital activities came to light. We agreed on everything except who would keep the house, but I told her unless she took over the mortgage and the utilities, I would not be leaving. 2 months prior, when it was evident that I was staying put, she made a play to remove me from the home and actually had me served with a 2-week temporary restraining order. Well, caught off guard, I rented a room with a coworker in the neighborhood and I hired a lawyer. I followed all the rules. I went to court, I answered all the judge's questions, and the temporary restraining order was revoked. After 3 weeks, I was back in my house and she was angrier than ever. And I'm including this background only because it explains my combative state of mind during the event. 2 weeks prior, I took my kids out of state to visit family for Christmas and New Year's. I asked my soon-to-be ex-wife, who we will call Amy, if she could shovel the walk and the porch stairs while we were away. Well, as you can probably imagine, she didn't do that. And upon our return, there were 2 inches of ice on the stairs and the sidewalk. The day after we returned, Amy had arranged to meet up with a Craigslist to buy a piece of furniture for the house that she had rented, and she was going with a friend who we will call Lisa, who had also set up a purchase of her own. When Lisa pulled into the driveway, Amy hurriedly ran out the door, slipped on the icy porch steps, and landed on a ceramic planter, cutting her hand open. Now, this wasn't a life or death situation, but there was blood and she did need stitches. She came back in freaking out, and I told her to go wrap it up and have Lisa take her to the emergency room. Meanwhile, Lisa had come to the door to see what the commotion was all about. I told Lisa that she needed to take Amy to the ER, and Lisa actually said to me that she wasn't going to blow off her meetup, saying that I should take her myself instead. But I said emergency room visits are not part of my role anymore. Lisa then actually accused me of mistreating her in some kind of way, but I just sarcastically asked her, okay, well, why do you want to leave your friend for someone who's mistreating you? Ultimately, Lisa left for her meetup, and I packed up the kids and dropped off Amy at the emergency room, and I just let her find her own way home. Now, if you had asked me the next day, I would have said I acted righteously and that Lisa should have stepped up for her friend. But with the clarity of time, I feel that I should have just swallowed my pride and better demonstrated for my kids how a father should act. So seriously, lay it on me. Am I the jerk for the way I handled this? Because right now, I'm not really sure if I made a mistake. Okay, maybe this is brutal, but absolutely not. I don't think you're the jerk. She literally tried to pull a restraining order on you just because she didn't want you living in that house anymore. It's like, dude, you're paying for everything, and she's trying to be like, I want the house, you need to leave. And now she slips and falls because she didn't take care of the sidewalk. Like, dude, this is literally her own fault. And like you said, dude, she's not dying or anything like that. So for her to be like, you're mistreating me, by the way, give me a ride. And it's like, okay, I'll give you a ride, but you're gonna figure your life out otherwise because I got nothing for you. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because I guarantee you if the roles were reversed, she absolutely would never help you out. And that is not fair for you in the slightest. Today, I messed up by lying to my girlfriend about how much I like her cooking, which then has resulted in her family thinking that I'm an amazing chef. And right now, I feel like I'm completely out of my depth, and honestly, I'm starting to panic because my girlfriend's dad has invited me to cook for his birthday next month, and I'm struggling to figure out what I'm gonna do when that day shows up. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I've been dating my girlfriend for just under a year. She is amazing, she's funny, she's supportive, and honestly, one of the kindest people I've ever met. But early on, she cooked for me, and I would find it terrible. I remember one time she made a smoothie that had a cucumber, yogurt, and garlic in it. But this is where I messed up. I didn't want to hurt her feelings, so I just said it was creative and tasted different, but in a good way. And this sparked something in her, and she just started cooking even more. Then I tried doubling down on the compliments, thinking it would slow down eventually, but it definitely didn't. So now, fast forward to a few months ago, and I made a simple pasta dish at hers. Literally just garlic, olive oil, and chili flakes. Her mom came over mid-meal, tried a bite, and said, "Oh wow, you made this? You must really know your way around a kitchen." I then panicked and I nodded, but my girlfriend smiled and said, "Oh, he's too humble. He always makes stuff for me when I'm sick." And now her whole family thinks that I'm some kind of like secret chef. I've even been invited to cook at her dad's birthday next month. They've even bought me an engraved apron that says my name and then calls me chef on it. So now I've been watching YouTube cooking tutorials at night, trying to learn enough to survive this lie. And the worst part about it is that my girlfriend still cooks for me, and I still fake it every single time. I know I should come clean, but I feel like I've waited so long, and I think it'll just cause chaos. I can't tell if I'm protecting her feelings or if I'm just being a coward, because right now this honestly just really sucks. I would hate being in the middle of this, dude. I cannot cannot cook to save my life. And if someone actually was like, oh wow, you can really cook well, and then started like inviting me over places, I would be like, oh my gosh, what do I do? And I can't say I wouldn't do what the original poster did. Like I would just play along and be like, oh yeah, I'm a chef, let's do this. And then just secretly watch YouTube videos and be like, okay, how do I cook? I really don't know what I'm doing. So hopefully this works out and hopefully you become that master chef that everybody thinks you actually are. Because this is hilarious and I really wish I could be like a fly on the wall to see how all this goes down. My boyfriend won't let me go over to his house anytime his female housemate happens to be home. And right now I'm starting to get really suspicious that something bad is going on, but I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of background, my boyfriend and I have known each other for a long time, but only became friends around 2 years ago and started dating in March of this year. Now, about a month into dating, my psycho housemate basically kicked me out over the fact that I now had a boyfriend. My boyfriend offered for me to stay with him until the end of my lease in May because my only other option was to move 2 hours away. Now, I confirmed over and over again that this would be fine for him. And you know what? He insisted. I made it clear that I can't go halfway when it comes to rent, but I would pay for whatever I could. And I would keep up with the cleaning and laundry for him. At this time, he had a housemate who wasn't paying rent and caused him a lot of stress. So when that came to a very dramatic head, the housemate was kicked out and my boyfriend started the search for a new housemate. About a month or two goes by and things are tense with my boyfriend and I. He seems to be resenting me in his space and his lack of freedom, but even still, I confirm that he's okay with me staying there until I get my bond back, and again, he insists that it's fine. But right now, I'm starting to be unhappy too, because it's hard not to be in that situation. But I finally found a new place for myself, and I have about 2 weeks to move in. And also at this point, I had started paying half of the rent at my boyfriend's place, along with continuing to look after the house. When I have about 3 days left before I can move, I'm walking from work to my boyfriend's house, and he calls me to say that someone's moved in and that I shouldn't freak out when there's stuff there. Now, I was excited for him because he's been so stressed out about it. And when I asked too, he said, oh, it's just a girl from work. And I thought to myself, okay, that's completely fine. I do know he spent quality time with most of the girls from his work, if you know what I mean. And this is all before we started dating, but that hasn't bothered me up until this point. The next day, I come home to his house, and the new housemate has kicked my clothes out of the way. And I would have cleaned them up before I left, had I known that she was moving more stuff that day. But I just got no warning at all. After that, things became strained between my boyfriend and I. And basically, I didn't like how things were being handled. And I noticed that he was being really guarded. We ended up breaking up for a week because everything was so heightened. But we talked it out and got back together again. And now the month or so that we've been back together has been absolutely great. And we've gone out and done a lot of fun things. However, I have not learned a single thing about his housemate. And he has made it clear that he's not comfortable having me over when she's home. One night, him and I were out and I asked if I could come back to his place. And he said no because the girls from his work were all drinking at his house. And he spent quality time with most of them. So he said that would make him uncomfortable. He also said he wants to keep his work life and private life separate. I then commented that maybe he should not have moved in with someone from work, but he responded by saying, oh, I had no choice. This conversation's over. Ever since then, we haven't discussed the situation further, even though he knows I find it odd. Now, I can't accept the situation as it is. No matter what his reasoning is, I feel stupid for trying to pretend the situation doesn't bother me. I don't want our relationship to end because I do actually trust him and I love being with him. I just refuse to be in this situation anymore. I find it embarrassing and naive to accept it at face value. And at this point, I really just don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster has an update that they would like to share, and honestly, things get incredibly weird. Here's what she had to say. Okay, I want to start off by saying that yes, I get it. I'm very stupid. I will add though, I am allowed in his house when she's not there, so I have seen that his room doesn't have any women's belongings in there, even when it's a last-minute stop-in. When we first started dating, he introduced me to everyone in his life. I met people he worked with, just not the girls. He never tried to hide me away. He brought me to Easter with his parents, and outside of this situation, there's nothing he's done to make me question him. I didn't move into his house when he needed a new housemaid because it was too much for both of us, and we both agreed we wanted a chance at dating before we jumped into living together immediately. There is a chance this girl's a lesbian if she's the coworker he says she is, but I'm honestly starting to question that as well. We go out 3 times a week and he stays over at my house, and the only nights I don't see him is when either of us are working nights. So honestly, at this point, I feel very confused and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, believe it or not, we have one last update from the original poster because they said at the top of their post that yes, they did in fact break up with him, which, oh my gosh, that is the best outcome in my opinion because your boyfriend absolutely was cheating on you. You simply can't tell me otherwise. Not to mention the fact that he's literally slept with everybody from his work, and now one of them lives in the house who he probably also slept with. So good for you for making the right choice because this was incredibly sketchy. My entitled father is demanding that I pay him back for all the child support he paid me while I was was growing up. And I'm honestly blown away that he's trying to pull this stuff on me, especially because he thinks that because I have a job now, I'm somehow rich and I can afford it, putting me in a situation that is completely ridiculous. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm a little bit fuzzy on the details now, as I do have some blocked memories about this, but I remember one day after working at a restaurant from basically 6 o'clock in the morning until 6 o'clock at night, while also having no lunch, barista, bartender, server, or dish pig, my dad cornered me and said that since I'm so rich, which by the way I wasn't, I was a manager making less than the junior staff, I should pay him back on all the child support my mother stole from him. He then showed me the letters that he kept, and with the way he went on and on over the year, I expected it to be thousands per month. And sure, I went to a private school, but they chose to send me there before they even got divorced. The plan had originally been for me to go there from pre-primary, but they missed the cutoff, so I went from year 7 until 12. Also, the cost for the school was done separately, completely outside of child support. So what it was used for was for uniforms, swimming lessons, healthcare, and a phone plan until I turned 16. Then I paid for my own with help from my mom to top it off occasionally, as I used my phone as a hotspot so my sister could do homework. Because after all, my dad didn't want to pay for Wi-Fi, as he said we would just waste it, which trust me is a long story in and of itself. The rest they just dealt with on their own and just paid for it if it was their week. And so basically he didn't pay anything, maybe like $20 per week for 2 kids. For a year, I listened to him guilt trip me on this and try to twist us against our mom. And you know what? Sometimes it worked. He would sometimes say he couldn't even afford food because of us. All that to find out he paid practically nothing. He worked as a locksmith and then a motorbike mechanic in a specialized area. And then he went right back to being a locksmith. I'm in contact with him now, obviously, and my sister lives with him still, but we're fine. She comes over to stay at my place pretty often, mostly just so she can get Wi-Fi for once. But she prefers dads to moms as she has issues with our mom, which also is another longer story. He even just took my sister on a week-long trip to Bali, you know, with all expenses paid. She's 20 years old and hasn't had a job for over a year. And when I last lived with him, I was the cook, the cleaner, the caretaker of my sister, the dog walker, and the person putting myself in the middle deliberately to avoid hospital visits and animal mistreatment. But yeah, my dad is literally a begging man-child and I'm honestly so sick of him. Yeah, your dad's super immature, like that's really obnoxious. This guy literally tried to act like you're the problem when it comes to him paying child support. But it's like, dude, that's not my fault, that's on you. You're the one that has to deal with that, not me. Sorry for existing, I guess, but like if you didn't want to marry mom, then maybe you shouldn't have gotten married in the first place. And I just love the fact that he's like, oh yeah, you're gonna pay me back all this money for child support. You're rich, you could do that. Meanwhile, this idiot literally didn't pay hardly anything. He was clearly an absent father in your life and wouldn't even give you Wi-Fi for God's sakes. Like what's going on with that? That's not a waste of money. That's literally like a utility at this point in today's day and age. Why would you not have that so that people can do their work and actually like participate in society? That's really dumb and just doesn't make any sense. So yeah, you don't owe your dad anything. He's being incredibly stupid. And if I was in your shoes, I definitely would not pay that any mind because I think you described him perfectly. He absolutely sounds like a massive man-child that would be super annoying to deal with. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to translate for my parents after my brother moved back in and took over my role in the house? Because right now my parents are pissed, but I just really don't care. Because at this point, I'm honestly just so exhausted. Here's what's going on. I'm a 19-year-old female and I'm the only one in my family who is fluent in English. My parents immigrated when I was a baby, and my older brother, who's 22, moved back to our home country when he was about 10 years old to be raised by our grandparents. And he recently moved back in with us after 12 years abroad. For most of my life, I've been the one handling everything for my parents, filling out forms, translating at appointments, reading legal documents, talking to banks, scheduling anything. I've done this since I was about 11 years old and it was exhausting. But honestly, I didn't question it because I knew they needed help. But since my brother came back, things have changed. He speaks decent English now. Not perfect, but enough to help out. Except here's the thing, he doesn't help. He just acts like he's too good for it. And somehow my parents act like he's the golden child. They dote on him, they praise him constantly, and now they only speak to me when they need something. A week ago, they asked me to take time off of work to translate an immigration appointment for my mom. I said that I couldn't because I had a shift I couldn't miss, and I suggested they ask my brother instead. My mom then just said, oh, he's not used to this stuff, it's easier with you. And when she said this, I snapped a little. I said to her, yeah, because I've been forced to to do it for years. I told them I was tired of being treated like a tool just because I happen to speak English better, especially now that they have another adult child living here. My dad told me that I was being ungrateful and that family helps without complaining, and since then they've been completely cold to me. My brother then said I was being dramatic and that it's not his fault that they trust me more, but it's not about trust. It's that they've literally never even asked him. I've missed school, I've missed work, I've even missed social events just to translate for them. Meanwhile, he's been here like 3 months and hasn't lifted a finger. Now, at this point, I do feel guilty. I don't want to abandon them, but I also don't want to keep carrying this alone just because I was born here and he wasn't. So am I the jerk for refusing to be their translator anymore? Because right now I'm honestly so frustrated that I just don't know what to do. Okay, first of all, I think someone pointed out something hilarious in the comment section, and it's the way your dad said, oh, family helps without complaining. Because if that really is the case, then guess what? The brother can help out and there shouldn't be any complaining. Like seriously, what's going on right now? If they really feel that way, then go to the brother and be like, no, family helps without complaining. We need help translating stuff. Because you're absolutely right. You've done this since you were like, what, 12 years old, 11 years old or something like that? It's obnoxious that they're still making you do that after all these years. So yeah, I think your brother absolutely should be stepping up, and I don't blame you for being like, no, I need a break from this. Because doing this for almost a decade would literally drive just about anybody insane. And for the sake of your own happiness and sanity, I definitely think it's time for your brother to step in. A guy that I'm talking to got arrested on video call with me last night, and even though he's made some mistakes, I still feel like I'm in love with him, but I'm not sure if this is the right move to make or if I'm just being naive. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I met this guy online and we instantly clicked. We've only been talking for a couple of days, but we really connected. We shared trauma, reassured each other, and it felt pretty real. He is my type, he says all the right things, and I honestly feel like I'm falling for this guy. Last night we were supposed to call at about 10 o'clock, but he didn't show until about 1 in the morning. He explained why he was late, and apparently his ex has a restraining order against him, and she saw him at a gas station and ended up calling the cops. He said the restraining order came from a past argument where she got scared and sprayed him with bear spray. When the police showed up, he admitted that he felt like hurting himself and ended up in a psychiatric hold longer than expected due to a name error, and he even has an ankle monitor. I offered to call with him as a distraction, but about an hour in, he said, oh, the police are back, give me a second, and I just said, oh, stay safe, and he said, all right, I love you. Now, we would obviously have never said that before, so I was completely stunned, and at this point, he had already taken out his headphones so he couldn't hear me. Then I saw a cop enter the room, and he came up to the camera and showed the handcuffs and said to me, I'm getting arrested, and I said, oh gosh, and then the cop shut off his PC and the call ended. I found his mugshot and record, and he's being held for violating a domestic no-contact order, and is listed as probable cause, and I haven't heard from him ever since this happened. My friends are telling me to run and that this is love bombing or manipulation, but I just don't know. He was open with me about it all, and I genuinely feel worried more than anything. I know it sounds crazy, but I just don't know if I'm being naive. So is it okay that I still care for this guy, or is there something that I need to do? Because right now I feel incredibly lost. Dude, I don't understand people. Seriously, the second I hear that they have like an ankle monitor and they've got a restraining order from their ex after they got bear sprayed by them, like, dude, this is like one red flag after another. Why are you with this guy? Because yeah, your friends are right. This guy's starting the engine of manipulation and you're just like sitting there being like, oh my gosh, I love him so much. He's the right person for me. He understands me. He's saying all the right things. He's my type. It's like, dude, what's your type? Like a criminal? Because that's not a type you want to deal with. This guy's gonna drag you down to the gutter with him and be like, oh, I love you so much. Meanwhile, he's gonna take everything from you. Like, dude, what are we doing here? Your dream guy has a restraining order and an ankle monitor, and he literally got arrested on camera. And the only thing you're thinking about is like, oh man, that's the first time he ever said, I love you. I can't believe it. I'm stunned right now. Instead of watching him literally get tackled to the ground and handcuffed. Like, dude, if I saw that, I'd be like, okay, I don't think this is worth it. See ya. So yeah, you're being very naive. You're absolutely falling for the wrong guy, and you could do way better than this. Because what this guy's offering is absolutely nothing, and this is literally only going to cause you harm. My entitled roommate steals the room I was planning on taking, despite the fact that I was paying extra just to have that room in the first place. So I decided to get some revenge when I moved out by leaving a massive dog turd in the middle of his bed and also putting dead fish in his wardrobe and in the pockets of his suits. Here's how I did it. Many years ago when I was a student, I spent my final year renting a room in a shared house which had about 8 bedrooms, which were each individually rented out by the agency. All of the other people in the house had graduated the previous year and had stayed in the city and got jobs, so I was the only student. Now, some of them knew each other and some of them didn't. I paid for a larger room on the first floor, but when I came to move in, it had already been taken by someone else who wasn't even there at the moment, so I moved into a smaller room on the ground floor. It was good enough for me and I was happy enough in that room for the year, but here's the kicker. I was paying approximately $40 a month more for the room I wasn't getting. The guy who took the room was hardly ever around, as he had a girlfriend he stayed with, and when he did come in, he went straight to the big room and didn't speak to anybody. I left him notes to ask about him paying the extra money for the room, as he wasn't supposed to be in that one, but he ignored them all and never came to speak to me. It didn't really ruin my year, as I had already been so busy with work and just trying to get my final exams done, but when it came close to time for me to move out, I tried to talk to him again, and he did the classic move where he was like, "I'm just gonna head out, but when I come back, we can sort it out later." And of course, later didn't come, and when the day came for me to leave, he was of course nowhere to be found. So I decided to get some petty revenge by literally having a dog crap on his bed. Just one big massive dog turd right in the middle of it. I also put a few smelly fish in his wardrobe and in the pockets of his suits, and I really wish I'd been there to see his face when he got back, which probably was several days later, just to see how he reacted to the smell, because this guy absolutely deserved it. Okay, first of all, I love this revenge. I think it's hilarious in my opinion, but I really hope you were not expected to pay for that room. You quite literally were not staying there. That cost falls on that guy and not you. The original poster basically said that they didn't go to the agency or report the guy because at the time they were only 21 years old and they're just trying to get through their final year in college. And I totally get that, like I really do, but it wouldn't have taken that much time to be like, okay, I'm gonna report this guy and he's absolutely moving out of there. Because if you're the one paying for it, then you deserve to stay there, regardless of what anybody else might have to say. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my brother use my car during his stay, even though he supposedly came up here to help me out after I had a minor knee surgery? Because right now I am very frustrated and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. I'm a 26-year-old female and I recently had minor knee surgery. This was not super serious, but enough to make it difficult just to get around. I live alone in an apartment about 30 minutes from the city center. My older brother offered to come stay with me for a week to help out while I recover. He lives about 4 hours away and we don't see each other super often, so I thought this was a really kind gesture. When he arrived, he asked if he could use my car here and there, and I said sure, assuming it would be for errands or picking things up for the apartment. But almost immediately, he started using it constantly, meeting up with friends, going to the gym, shopping, and just driving around to clear his head. I found myself stuck at home, limited in what I could do, and twice had to order takeout because he wasn't around when I needed help grabbing something. He also never asked before taking the car, and I noticed the gas was running low really quickly, and despite that, he still hasn't even filled it once. Well, yesterday I told him I didn't feel comfortable with him using the car like this. I reminded him that he came under the pretense of helping me, not using this as a free week with my car. He then got super upset and said I was being ungrateful and that he took time off of work to be here and was doing his absolute best, and since I can't even drive right now, it shouldn't be a big deal. Well, he's barely said a word to me ever since then. I mentioned the situation to our mom and she sided with him, saying that I'm being dramatic and that I should be appreciative since he made the effort to come along. But the thing is, if he had just told me up front, oh, I want to come and stay for a week and use your car to get around, I still probably would have said no. I feel like he misrepresented his intentions, and now I'm the one stuck feeling like an inconvenience in my own apartment. So seriously, am I the jerk for putting my foot down about my car? Because right now I'm seriously still pissed off. No, you are definitely not the jerk here. Your brother is taking advantage of you and that is not fair. Seriously, this guy is running around all over the place and the gas is getting low and he's using the car to drive around just to clear his head. It's like, dude, what are you doing? That's not helping me in the slightest. If you need to drive around to clear your head, then you clearly are not the person for the job and taking care of me. Like, you had knee surgery, dude. You can't do anything right now. And this guy's trying to be like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna go, drive and clear my head or go to the gym and hang out with friends and all this other crap. So truly, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. I would have told him straight up, I'm sorry, this is not working and I think you need to go home. Because obviously he is not here to take care of you, and that really sucks in my opinion. An entitled idiot used my email address in a store that literally I had nothing to do with. So I decided to get some petty revenge by setting up an account behind their back and spending all of their loyalty reward points on cat treats. Here's what happened. Back in 2021, I started getting random emails from Tractor Supply asking me to rate my order. Now, I'm in the United Kingdom, so I had no clue what Tractor Supply was, but a it turns out that they're in the United States and they don't even sell tractors. When the first email arrived, I thought it was probably a mistake. The customer making the purchase at Tractor Supply may have just given the wrong email address at checkout. I got in very early with Gmail, so my email address is very simple. It's understandable someone might have just made a mistake once or twice, but the emails kept coming. The simple solution would have been just to block the Tractor Supply emails. But I was feeling a little bit more petty, especially in exchange for using my email address to send spam to. Well, it turns out I could create a Tractor Supply account on the website, even though I don't live in the United States. And when I created the account with my email address, it connected my new account with the in-store loyalty profile this idiot has been using my email address for. I could see the full history of all their in-store purchases, from dog collars to cement, etc. When you make a purchase at Tractor Supply, you get points back on your loyalty account that you can then use to activate a reward. Well, the perpetrator was waiting until they reached enough points to get a $10 discount off of their next purchase. One of the other rewards you can buy with loyalty points is a voucher for a bag of cat treats. So now every time I get an email from Tractor Supply about a new purchase, I log into my account and I exchange my newly assigned loyalty points with a voucher for a bag of cat treats. The account currently has 8 accrued vouchers, and it's now turned into a game of how many cat treat vouchers can I get before they notice. I don't know how it works in store or if there's a limit on how many you can have, but I'm secretly hoping on a future purchase, the perpetrator is then asked if they want their 20 free bags of cat treats added to their order, and only then will they finally realize that they probably shouldn't have used a random petty stranger's email address, because this clearly is not going to work out for them. Okay, I love this because this really is a unique way of getting revenge on someone, because yeah, I totally get it. Some people just make the mistake and they're like, okay, I didn't mean to put in the wrong email address, but here we are anyways. But even then, I just think it's so funny that you could literally go through the trouble of making an email address and just screwing with all of their loyalty reward points. That's hilarious if you ask me, and I love the fact that you did this, especially without them knowing. Because if they don't have a cat, then my god, they're going to be very confused when they try to redeem any kind of reward. Am I overreacting after my husband's boss refused to return my partner's $40,000 in tools after he quit? Because even though the police are involved and we literally tried to handle this as respectfully as possible, we still are facing no resolution of any kind, leaving me and my husband in a weird situation as he literally can't do his job without these tools in his life. Here's what's going on. So my partner recently quit his job after months of tension and disrespect from his boss. He was constantly belittled, being told things like, oh, you're a 1-year red seal, or I just don't need the attitude, and having his professional input dismissed in favor of random opinions from others. The breaking point came when the boss brought in some marketing people who owns a franchise, so you'd think the parent company would handle this, who were filming TikToks and spreading misinformation. My partner calmly corrected something that was wrong, and the boss flew off the handle, saying he was being disrespectful in front of staff. He told my partner to take the day off, and my partner said, if this is a fight, I quit. And the boss just doubled down, telling him to take the whole week off. So my partner quit clearly and calmly. Before leaving, he told the boss he'd be back at the end of the day for his tools. He separated the shop stuff from his own and locked up his personal toolbox, which holds about $40,000 worth of tools. This is his career and his livelihood. After he left, the boss started texting him. He was saying things like, I'm sorry, I really care, and then immediately started reaching out to a mutual friend, trying to get my phone number, even getting upset when they wouldn't give it to him because I had said no. But we stayed firm in the text messages. We're coming today for the tools, and this is not optional. It's how our family survives. We have 2 kids and I'm disabled and not working after nearly dying from an infection after giving birth. I had what's called sepsis, and this really messed up my leg and left me unable to work. These tools aren't just expensive, they are literally everything. We then called the non-emergency police line to have someone there to keep the peace, and the officer saw the text messages, including the boss admitting the tools were my partner's and agreeing to a pickup time. But when we arrived, the boss suddenly refused to let him in. The front desk staff gave the office the wrong number to the boss's rep, so we had to provide the actual number ourselves. The rep, apparently a relative, said that my partner wasn't allowed on the property anymore. They literally are just playing games at this point. The police officer, who was honestly great, said the whole thing was incredibly stupid, but his hands are tied and told us to call again the next day. So now we're sitting here, still without the tools after trying to handle everything respectfully. We didn't escalate, we just want his stuff back. So am I overreacting by feeling completely violated and furious that they're holding his tools hostage like this? Should he be allowed to just leave his business during the hours and just, I don't know, decide when my husband gets to work? Because right now I'm freaking out and I don't know what to do. You're not overreacting. If anything, you're underreacting. This guy is literally holding your tools hostage, and in my opinion, it's time to up the ante. And I'm not telling you what to do. I can only speak for myself, but if I was in your shoes, I would immediately immediately start looking for a lawyer, because what's happening right now is completely unacceptable. Like, this is not only unprofessional, but it's also like them literally stealing from you and your husband. But also, if I can be completely blunt with your husband, why on earth would he ever leave that place without getting those tools first? If that really cost him $40,000 to have, and he can't do his job without them, why would he ever be like, I'll pick him up later? Especially if he knows how toxic these people are. His workplace is clearly volatile. Like, what's going on right now? Talk about a lapse in judgment. Like, that was really not a smart thing for him to do. He should have taken the tools with him and run out the door. Like, don't even pretend like they're gonna let you back in. Because look at what's happening, dude. These people suck. They're trying to hold those tools and be like, oh, you can't come in here ever again. Sorry, can't let you in. And of course the cops are like, I can't do anything. I mean, just call back tomorrow, I guess. Because this is insane in my opinion. He even tried to get the original poster's phone number just to berate them and be like, I really do care. I'm sorry. Like, this is some crazy behavior, and honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would take it to the next level to make sure I get back what is rightfully mine. Because the way they're acting right now is completely unfair, and you and your family do not deserve this in the slightest. An entitled jerk demands that we honor his old gift cards simply because he's a doctor, claiming that because he has the job that he does, he deserves special treatment over anybody else. Here's how it went down. So I'm a restaurant owner, and of course, I deal with loads of BS every single day. But this one time was just extra special, super crazy BS that honestly I can't get over. To start things out, we bought a restaurant in 2008. Lots of crap comes with that kind of purchase, and of course the equipment and inventory, but also existing customers, both good and bad. In many circumstances, the purchaser also inherits the issue of outstanding gift cards. Now, we did not receive any money or discount from the business purchase to cover the cash liability of the gift cards. So we decided it would be best to honor those old cards for a period of 1 year, starting the date that we took over all operations. We figured it would be seen as a good move that our guests would certainly appreciate. We put signs on the doors, posted on social media platforms even though it was limited back then. We even did a trade out with a couple local publications that our demographics relied on at the time. We had an upper crust clientele with lots of affluent people. Now, to help with separating the sales of the old cards, we made new ones with a new logo and everything, meaning that it was very obvious when someone was using the old cards. Now remember, we just comped all of those sales with no income whatsoever. Well, a year comes rolling around and we again announced that the old cards would be useless come said date. You know, whatever date that might be, and that anyone with one needed to use it up as soon as possible. Well, the final day comes and the signs are taken off the doors. The very next day, we had a table of 6 with one guy paying for the whole table. And wouldn't you know it, he wanted to use one of the old cards. I explained the situation to him and that it would be necessary to use another form of payment. But as you can probably guess, that didn't go over well. He then starts arguing with me, telling me that the right thing to do would be to accept his old gift card, which at this point was over a year old, most likely a couple of years old. We then go back and forth, around and around, and after a couple of minutes, he says to me, well, you know, I'm a doctor, so you should try to save face with me. Now, I had been very nice up to this point, but once he said this, I told him that his profession has nothing to do with it. But even though I was trying to talk, he kept cutting me off, trying to convince me that doctors were the best customers, even though, fun fact, they absolutely are not, and some of them are actually the worst, and that we should honor the card for him because of such. But I just shrugged my shoulders and I told him, well, if you leave now, I'll cut your bill in half just to get you out of my restaurant. And he was shocked at my chosen words, as anyone would be, I guess. But you know what? He accepted my offer and they left, never to be seen again, thankfully. And honestly, so many doctors have that God complex, that holier than thou attitude. I grew up in a medical family. My dad was a well-known doctor with a huge practice. His wife, who was my stepmom, was a nurse practitioner and worked in his office and did quite well. And I will say that there were times that dad acted in a similar fashion until I got into restaurant ownership. He slowly began to understand the amount of crap we deal with and that customers can really suck sometimes. And eventually he became a better customer. He had more patience with the staff, etc., and he was tipping way more than before. He definitely changed his tune after spending 5 years in prison, which is an entirely different story in and of itself. But he came out more humble and things like that. So this entitled jerk saying that he should get special treatment because he's a doctor honestly was not going to faze me for a single second. Wow, imagine being so entitled that you're like, I'm a doctor, you need to give me an exception. Like, seriously, dude, who cares? Because the original poster is right. Your profession has literally nothing to do with anything going on in here. And the fact that he wants to be like, I deserve the best, you should honor these gift cards because I'm a doctor, you need to save face with me. It's like, my guy, you have no power over this restaurant in the slightest. Just because you're coming here and you've probably been going here for a while doesn't mean I owe you anything, bro. Like, what's going on right now? So good for the original poster for standing their ground, because this kind of entitled behavior is completely unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out. out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for saying that I don't want my sister at my wedding? All because I'm convinced that she will try to ruin everything. Here's what's going on. For a bit of context, I'm a 28-year-old male, and I'm getting married to my amazingly beautiful fiance, who I will call Rosie, in a month. We met 4 years ago through my sister, who I will call Sophia, and from what I know, they were good friends before me and Rosie started dating. I knew Sophia would always be indifferent to my past partners, but I never would have thought that she would do that to somebody she was friends with way before. But clearly, I thought wrong. When Sophia realized we were getting serious, she would start making sly remarks and rude comments to Rosie. It always irritated me, but Rosie always told me it was fine and would always beg me to not say anything, so I never really did. But recently, since our engagement, Sophia has been a real jerk. In fact, Rosie had her as a bridesmaid, even though I don't see the point. Anyways, we had a gathering with a whole wedding party, and the girls were supposed to wear blush pink and the guys sage green, since they were our wedding colors. Meanwhile, I wore black and Rosie wore white. And honestly, I should have known that Sophia was gonna do something stupid, since she was 20 minutes late, but that's another problem in and of itself. Sophia showed up and she was wearing a white dress to the gathering. Like literally a white dress. And that honestly was my last straw. I told Sophia to either go home and change, or she can be out of the wedding. And I guess she thought I was joking because she laughed, but I was not. When she finally realized, she got defensive and told me it's just a color, which I replied that it wasn't, while also saying, look, it's not my fault you have some weird obsession with every girl I date. You're not gonna ruin my relationship with Rosie. I even told her that I didn't want her there at all, especially if she's gonna pull a stunt like this, which apparently was too far since my mom started yelling at me and the gathering ended early. Now, Rosie thanked me for standing up for her, but she wants me to apologize since Sophia is my sister. But honestly, I'm not gonna do it. So honestly, am I the jerk here? Because right now I don't know what to do. Okay, I think it's important to note that yeah, your sister is out of her mind and she is only acting this way to try and get under your skin and ruin your relationship. Like that's all that's going on, and honestly, it's not fair. She wore a white dress on purpose just to piss you guys off, or at the very least, test the water to see if she can get away with it. And that's crazy in my opinion. Like seriously, there's no reason to act that way. So no, you're not the jerk for saying you don't want your sister at your wedding. She's clearly gonna try and like ruin it in some kind of way, and honestly, I think getting ahead of this would be a really good idea. An entitled jerk I go to school with has been constantly bothering me and making me uncomfortable in ways that are completely inappropriate. So I decided to get some revenge by spoiling the ending of Marvel's Endgame, completely upending and ruining his experience with that movie since at the time he had not seen it yet, resulting in this guy finally leaving me alone. Here's how it went down. So this was back in 2019 when the hype for Marvel's Endgame was in full swing. I was in high school, maybe being 13 or 14 years old at the time, and for some reason this kid was obsessed with me. Like from the very start, he decided to constantly annoy me. He had written a song about me cheating on him even though we never dated, and had followed me around the corridors telling me that my butt looked nice. We lived in the same area of town, and he once followed me home, saying some pretty disgusting stuff to me, honestly, to put it nicely. Now, I tried telling the school, but they said he probably had a crush on me and to just ignore him. This kid loved Marvel, especially Iron Man. Like, he was absolutely obsessed. He had the themed backpack, a pencil case, everything. And when he wasn't pestering me nonstop, he was talking about Iron Man. Well, he got sick the same week Endgame was released and was off school for a few days. A few of my friends had seen it that weekend, and since I wasn't interested, they spoiled it for me and told me that Iron Man died at the end. Well, the kid came in next week after being ill and started bothering me once again. I knew that he had not seen Endgame yet, and to be honest, I just wanted him to shut up, but I was a really quiet kid who never retaliated. So I told him Iron Man died in Endgame. And yes, I know it's a bad thing to spoil things on the premise that you're not interested in that thing, but he was fully stunned. Like, the look on his face was absolutely brilliant, and based on the way he was treating me, he honestly really deserved it. Okay, first of all, the fact that the school is not doing anything about this is crazy to me. Like, why on earth are they letting that slide? Like, seriously, that's some crazy, weird behavior, and that is absolutely not okay. But also, I think this is some really funny revenge because this guy deserves it. He's literally like bothering the original poster in a way that is absolutely uncalled for, saying these really gross remarks and saying, oh, you got a nice butt and all this weird stuff. Like, seriously, this is not okay. So the fact that you ruined probably his favorite franchise all in one fell swoop, like, that's funny to me and honestly so deserved. So good for you for scaring this guy away, because apparently, according to the original poster, this was super effective, because this guy absolutely deserved it. My entitled friends from high school thought that they could dine and dash from the restaurant I was a server at. So I decided to get some revenge by literally telling on them to their moms, getting them in trouble in a way that they will never be able to avoid. This is how I did it. When I was working as a server, some people I knew vaguely decided to dine and dash at the restaurant I worked at. These These were high school friends of a friend, and it wasn't my table, but I was close with the server. And some restaurants make servers pay for walkouts for not paying enough attention to their tables. When anybody I vaguely know walks into an establishment that I work at, I always clock it and I try to avoid them. The town we live in is not a small town in Michigan, but I've gone to like 3 different school districts, so the chances of me running into someone that I know is very high, with bonus points being added if I'm friends on Facebook with them. But since they decided to dine and dash, I quickly went to Facebook and I looked them up. Then I messaged them and I said, hey, I know you dine and dashed, you need to come back and pay for your meal. But after they left me on red, I decided to get some revenge. I found their moms and I messaged them. Their moms thanked me for letting them know, and I don't really remember if the bill ended up getting taken care of because it was a long time ago, but I do remember giving my server friend the validation of knowing I tattled to their moms. Okay, dude, this is so messed up on so many fronts. First of all, the fact that any restaurant would make servers pay for walkouts, like that is crazy and probably illegal somewhere in the world. I'm not sure about the specifics of it, so don't quote me, but I'm pretty sure that is incredibly unethical. But secondly, who in their right mind would dine and dash in today's day and age? There are cameras everywhere, dude. Like, what are you doing? That is some serious stupid behavior that is just gonna land you in a lot of trouble. Not to mention the fact that you live in a small town. Like, chances are somebody's gonna know you from somewhere, and it's just gonna hurt your reputation and everybody's gonna catch you in the act. So truly, to the original poster, I say good for you. People like this deserve to get caught because I literally can't stand people who steal, and the fact that they thought they would seriously get away with that, in my opinion, is some crazy behavior. Today, I messed up by winning a government surplus auction where I mistakenly got a 20-foot trailer that I thought was just a darkroom for my photography hobby, resulting in one of the weirdest situations I've ever been in my entire life. Here's how it went down. Okay, first of all, please cut me some slack because this happened when I was 13 years old. I was a young wannabe photographer, and I had been researching the cost of setting up my own darkroom. Now, this is a mostly lost art. You need an enlarger, film tanks, chemicals, paper, and dozens of other pieces of equipment. Plus, you needed a light-proof room with decent ventilation. My parents were mostly supportive, if not mostly disinterested. I was allowed to come and go as I please, and they were willing to let me use an unused bathroom at our house to set up my own darkroom. I just never had enough money to do it, so I used to have to use a rented darkroom at a local studio that charged by the hour. Now, my 15-year-old brother was a very early computer nerd and a phone freak. He had different projects going on all the time, and some of them were pretty sketchy. In fact, he used to buy stuff from the US government. They mailed him books for auctions and surplus disposal, etc. He had set up a bidding account and had bought crazy used electronics and decommissioned communications devices. It was all through sealed bid offers and conducted solely through snail mail. You would see a listing that you wanted, you would fill out a bidding form, and then send it through the mail. If you were the high bid, you would receive a notice sometimes 4 to 6 weeks later with instructions on payment. Well, he showed me a brief listing that caught his eye. It's been a while, but it said something like this: portable field darkroom, enlarger, trays, storage, self-contained with supplies and tools. The listing had dozens of abbreviations and other details that I didn't understand, and it was located 90 miles away in the San Diego area. Shipping was to be coordinated by the winning bidder. Now, when I saw this, I was very excited. My brother had gotten electronics and tools for pennies on the dollar. He agreed to send a bid for me, and after much deliberation on how much to bid, we came upon the magnificent sum of $80. There was little to no chance that we would even win, but honestly, who knows? So we just sent off the bid. When the end date came and went, I breathlessly checked the mail daily to see if I won. Finally, I received a very official-looking envelope with basically a notification and an invoice. And believe it or not, I actually won. We paid through a postal money order and received instructions on where to collect my triumphant spoils. And honestly, this is where things go very sideways. Now, we had no way of getting the stuff picked up. It was miles away. I didn't even have a bicycle at the time. Well, my brother worked out a deal with a super shady guy named Lance, who had a mini truck, all for a tank of gas and some stolen booze. And with that, we were mobile. So we drove down to the warehouse with my paperwork in hand. But it turns out we were going to a Marine base. So there we were. My brother, a slightly chubby, freckled redhead, me, the scrawny, prepubescent doofus, and Lance, someone who looks like they're straight out of the movie Dazed and Confused. As we got closer to the gate, Lance starts freaking out. He's got some special substances on him, if you know what I mean, and he's got no ID. After we explained who we were and why we were there, the gate guard had us driving to the holding area. They said to us, do not exit the vehicle and do not drive past the second fence. After about 25 minutes, a very stern-looking guy came out and walked around the truck. Gentlemen, I understand you're here to retrieve a parcel. We responded by saying yes, sir, and he responded back by asking if this was the vehicle that we intend to remove our property. He then asked for who it was that ordered this, and it's there that I got his attention by saying, it's me, I'm the one who did it. He then said to follow him and took us to a dusty field and storage yard where we passed past building after building of neglected green junk. Everything was covered in tarps and tied with rope. Well, he finally stopped and said, "Do you see the problem here?" And I'm thinking to myself, what are you talking about? He then says to me, "This is your dark room." We were in front of a dilapidated 20-foot trailer from no later than 1960. It was filthy and sitting on very low tires. He opened the doors and said, "Go ahead, watch out for mice and spiders." Now, the inside was just as crappy and rotted as the exterior. Boxes of old photography supplies, unrecognizable canisters, and an ancient vintage enlarger that was probably state-of-the-art several years ago. Now, I was crestfallen, feeling completely dumb. The guy then basically said that he doesn't think our rig is going to tow this thing out of there. And at this point, I'm thinking to myself, wait a second, tow this thing? I wanted to get out of here and just never look back. I then asked him the burning question of, well, what happens if we don't pick it up? But this guy basically implied that we're not going to be going anywhere with it unless we've got a diesel rig hiding somewhere. So we left. As much as I wanted to split the blame with my brother, as he was older, this was completely on me. I told him it was a great deal and that I knew everything on the listing. And even though my money was gone, the worst was yet to come. Sometime in the next few weeks, we started getting official-looking abandoned property letters, as well as notice of forfeiture, and then it finally happened. I came home from school one day, and there in front of my house was the green beast. My horror was compounded by the fact that it was blocking the driveway. I mean, there was no hiding this. I went inside the house, and I remember closing the drapes as if my parents wouldn't notice it when they came home, and I started frantically calling the numbers I had for the warehouse. It was about 3 to 4 tries in when I finally got someone on the line who could help me. They said to me, and they basically explained that they were going in that direction, and they just dropped off the load on the way. And I said to them, "Are you crazy? I'm a 13-year-old kid." And the guy on the other end said, "Well, according to the Department of Disposal, you're the owner of the surplus trailer." And then he hung up on me. Now, about this time, a small group of nosy neighbors and kids, mostly my friends, had gathered around to see the green behemoth. And this was perfect timing as my dad was rounding the corner in his car. My parents were not exactly engaged helicopter parents. My siblings and I pretty much did whatever we wanted with little to no supervision, and they only got involved when antics disrupted their lives. You know, with what's happening right now. Well, my dad wasn't a monster. He basically just said, just deal with it. And over the next few days, I cleaned it out and was able to move it so it wasn't blocking the driveway. After a few days, we decided to run an ad for it, and I eventually sold it to a hippie who showed up in a vintage postal truck and gave me $50 for the entire thing. I eventually built my own darkroom, and my family still teases me about the beast to this day, because this is an incident that still haunts me. Okay, this is a crazy situation because honestly, this is not your fault. These people did not properly advertise this, and they definitely didn't tell you exactly the dimensions of what you would be buying. Like, I'm sure you thought this was some small thing that you could set up in your house, not a 20-foot trailer you're gonna have to gut and clean out. Like, dude, what's going on right now? So good for you for getting it sold off and getting it off your property, because I'm sure that must have been a nightmare to deal with. Am I the jerk for not inviting my friend to our girls' night after she literally stole the spotlight last time she showed up? Here's how it all went down. I'm a 24-year-old female and I live in a small town where everyone knows everyone, and gossip spreads faster than free Wi-Fi. Me and my 2 best friends have a tradition once a month where we do a proper girls' night. Just us with some good food and the kind of drama you only share when you really trust someone. Well, this is where Tina enters the story. She moved back to town a few months ago and has been trying to slide back into our friend group, and I was cool with it. I mean, the more the merrier, right? Well, no, I was completely wrong. Last month, we invited her to the girls' night for the first time, and within 10 minutes, she was telling everyone about her breakup, her new guy, and how apparently every guy in town has a crush on her. She interrupted every story we told and somehow made it about herself. Then, and I kid you not, she went on Instagram Live from my living room during the night, and it turned into a weird question and answer about her life, and she barely acknowledged the rest of us. Well, this month, I decided to keep girls' night between just me and my 2 close friends, meaning that I was not going to invite Tina. And now she's telling people in town that I excluded her out of jealousy and I don't want her to be happy. Half the girls in town are now direct messaging me, saying things like, "Oh, that's so mean. You should have included her." While the other half are saying, "Good, she's exhausting." So am I the jerk for protecting the vibe and not inviting her this time? Because right now, I'm honestly not sure if I'm in the wrong. Okay, honestly, it sounds like Tina is super obnoxious and one of those people who is always trying to like get the attention from everyone. And that just really sucks. It's really annoying, and after a while, it can really just drive you crazy. So if you want to have a girls' night with just you and your 2 friends, then you have every right to. Like, this is not something she should be expected to join up in, especially if she's gonna be annoying. And to anybody who's like, "Oh yeah, you should have invited her," if they really feel that way, then why not include Tina in their stuff? Because I guarantee you that Tina will pull the exact same crap, because from the sounds of it, this is just the kind of person that Tina is. Am I overreacting about my neighbors coming into my backyard, stealing my blueberries without my permission? Because right now, I feel like I'm going crazy and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. on. Okay, almost a year ago, my husband and I made the move out of the city and bought a beautiful home in a beautiful suburb that is somewhat historic. Our home is late 1800s and has been renovated, but with a lot of the historic aspects kept, like a beautiful old barn. With this home, the prior owners had fruit trees and a blueberry patch, with about 12 bushes altogether. The wife of the couple who sold us left me a guide to caring for the fruit trees and the bushes, and apparently there are multiple types of blueberries, and they were one of her big passions. I was super excited to have land for my dogs, get to garden, and take care of the existing fruit plants. We moved in last fall, and this is our first year having to care for everything. Last fall, we put us a fence around our property so that the dogs can go out in the yard whenever they want. Well, the other day, my dog started barking like crazy, and mind you, they are not very vocal usually. I went out to see what was going on, and a woman with 2 kids was yelling at them in my yard. She had a bucket in her hands and her arms were flailing. I ran over to see what she was doing in our yard and what the issue was. She said my dogs were bothering her and she had come to pick blueberries with her kids. And I was like, sorry lady, this is private property and my dogs are just protecting their home. She then told me that she had permission from the owner and for the last few years they came down to pick blueberries and her kids always look forward to it. I then explained that we bought the house about a year ago and we aren't comfortable with that and that she needed to leave. She then went off on a rant about how the previous owner had always allowed it, and she even said it was rude of me to put a fence up, and I'm just thinking to myself, what is going on right now? Well, I ended up telling her to leave or I would call the police. She was fuming and said something about us ruining the neighborhood, and I'm just thinking to myself, okay, cool, whatever. I then messaged my husband because he was at the office, and he told me straight up that we should get a lock for the gate. I'm worried if this lady comes in again, or another neighbor who had prior access to her property does, our dogs might get out or they might get protective. We have 2 larger rescue dogs who are sweet, but they're dogs, so stuff can happen. Also, this lady never came to introduce herself when we moved in, yet she expects us to let her pillage our fruit. I feel like I maybe should report this in the chance that something else pops up, but I just don't know. So overall, am I overreacting here? Because right now, I really don't know what to do. No, your neighbor's crazy, dude. Who in their right mind would like go on someone else's property like that and be like, oh yeah, I had permission from the other owner. And it's like, dude, you clearly know the other owner moved out, right? Like this is clearly not the person who used to live here, so you being like, well, the other people let me do it. Like that crap just doesn't fly in my opinion, and it doesn't make any sense. So no, you didn't overreact. This lady's insane for doing this. And I think setting up a gate or some kind of cameras around your property would probably be a really good idea, especially considering the fact that this lady did it once, and there is no saying that she wouldn't try and do this one more time. My psycho pastor invited someone over to my house for Christmas Eve that we literally did not know about or even know in the first place. Things got so weird when we went home and found this man sitting on our couch as he had literally just walked in our front door and made himself at home. And I've honestly never been more pissed off in my entire life. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this is a throwback situation, and the people involved besides my husband are no longer a part of my life at all. But therapy is weird, and while working through something else entirely, the memory of this situation popped out from wherever it was lying dormant in my brain and hasn't gone away ever since. Let me set the scene. It was Christmas Eve in the early 2000s. It is below freezing outside, and snow is blowing lightly around. My husband and I are alone, but we'll be going to visit family the next day. We used to have our celebration on Christmas Eve with just the 2 of us, and then go to the big family event the next day. Now, there was this guy that our pastor was helping out who was around 20 years old. My spouse and I were in our early 20s as well, and the only thing the pastor knew for certain about us was that we didn't have kids and we didn't have plans for Christmas Eve that involved other people. Or maybe he didn't know the second part and just made an assumption. Either way, it's really not clear. Anyways, my husband and I went out for our annual Chinese food meal and to hang out looking at Christmas lights and then planned to watch a movie or something at home. While out at dinner, my husband got a call from our pastor telling him that he'd sent the guy that we didn't know, we'll call him Brian for the sake of the story, over to our house because we weren't doing anything and thought we should be kind and share our Christmas Eve with this man. And no, this was absolutely not discussed with us prior. That needs to be absolutely clear. Well, he sent the guy to our house on a dang bicycle in freezing temperatures and was irate when we didn't leave our food to go visit with Brian. We were then lectured about Christian love and how we were not being good Christians by not inviting Brian along. And it's like, what are you talking about? So eventually we go home and Brian is on our couch. Presumably he was told to just go in. I mean, we live way out in the country, so the doors were definitely not locked. And at this point, I'm shaking with anger. I tensely said good night and I went to bed because I absolutely was not dealing with a relative stranger when my little introverted heart had been promised one night of peace out of the week of chaos. All of this was reported back to the pastor by Brian, who was so hurt and put out by us not being there when he arrived. Now, I thought nothing of it, honestly, honestly until months later when I asked the pastor for a letter of recommendation, which he willingly gave, only to find out he wrote horrible things about my character and my uncharitable nature. And this is based, I can only assume, on that event since I serve regularly at the church and I help quite a lot of people if I'm being completely honest, which this pastor would have known about. So seriously, am I the jerk from this situation? Because it really bothers me and I'm honestly not sure what to make of it. Okay, this pastor crossed about 7,000 boundary lines in my opinion because this is crazy. Look, if this guy really wanted to show Christian love, he would have been like, look, Brian, come to my house and have dinner with my family. We'll give you food, we'll give you a place to stay, and you can have a fantastic Christmas. Like, if that's really what he's trying to preach, then absolutely practice what you preach, brother. Why on earth would you then try to force that on someone else who isn't even home, dude? If the pastor had discussed this ahead of time and tried to convince you to do it, it still gives you the option to be like, no, we got other plans, we're not going to do it. But the fact that he literally said, okay, Brian, go over to their house, open the door, and sit on their couch. They're expecting you. Don't worry. This is all about God's love. Don't worry. They're going to take care of you. That is some crazy behavior. This is not okay. That would be a one-way ticket to me never showing back up at that church ever again. There's no way I would put up with that, dude. So no, you're definitely not the jerk, because this pastor crossed a line that absolutely should not have been crossed. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my sister that she cannot bring her emotional support peacock to Thanksgiving in my home? Because right now she is freaking out about me saying no to this, and at this point I'm not sure what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so this is gonna sound insane, but here we go. My sister, who we will call Emma, is 26 years old and recently got this emotional support peacock named Sir Reginald after her breakup with her boyfriend of 3 years. She claims it helps with her anxiety, but honestly, I think she just wanted something exotic. I'm hosting Thanksgiving this year at my apartment, and I told her that yes, she can come, but the peacock has gotta stay home. Well, when I said that, she flipped out, saying I'm discriminating against her disability, and also saying that Sir Reginald is legally protected. Now, the thing is, my building doesn't allow birds, and also my girlfriend is terrified of large birds since she got attacked by a goose as a kid. Emma called me ableist and said that she won't come if her support animal can't be there, and my mom is now guilt-tripping me, saying that I'm ruining the family holiday. But it's a peacock. I'm in a studio apartment with 8 people. So honestly, am I being unreasonable here? I feel bad, but also this seems completely ridiculous, and at this point, I don't know what to do. Okay, I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm right there with the original poster. This is some crazy stuff, dude, because this is literally not the same as a service animal. Trust me, I get it. Emma's going through a hard time, and this peacock, for whatever reason, is helping her out. But it is not the same thing as having a service dog that helps you function on a day-to-day basis. Because from what I know, and no, I'm not an expert, but service animals absolutely have legal protection, whereas emotional support animals definitely don't. Service animals do stuff for people that they just can't do themselves. For example, a dog helping someone who's blind navigate a city. And it's sure, I'm not doubting the validity of a peacock being an emotional support animal, but she's phrasing this like it's some kind of disability. And I just don't think she knows what she's talking about when she says, oh yeah, I'm disabled. Because there are people out there who actually have disabilities who use service animals who would probably look at Emma in this story and be like, what in the world are you talking about? You just went through a bad breakup. Are you kidding me right now? So honestly, I'm right there with the original poster. I think not wanting a peacock in your home is completely reasonable, and in my opinion, I think the way Emma's acting is incredibly annoying. My entitled neighbor demands that I move my car that's legally parking on the street, as she claims we're blocking workers from going to her house, resulting in me firing back at this lady with a note that honestly is the most condescending thing she will ever read in her life. Here's what happened. Okay, today I had my first real Karen moment. We don't own any property, so we rent the top floor of a house near Boston with my significant other. Our lease allows us to park one car in the driveway, so I park my second car on a nearby side street where I have a valid residential parking permit. My next door neighbor is currently having work done on his home as he's building a new deck, and he's also parking on the street with a permit. Well, last night I parked my car on the street near his car, which was completely legal and well within the rules. But this morning when I went to pick up my daughter from preschool, I found a note on my windshield that read the following: "Move your car immediately. You have blocked access to workers that need to do scheduled work. Find somewhere else to park." Well, it turns out the same note was left on 3 other cars as well. My girlfriend and I decided to write a calm and respectful letter in response, which we placed in the woman's mailbox. And our note said the following: "We appreciate the handwritten urgency, but just to clarify, this is a public street. And yes, we park there legally with valid permits. Sharing is caring after all. If there's scheduled work happening, it usually comes with signage, not handwritten notes from someone who doesn't live on the street. I totally understand the frustration of not being able to control public parking though. Must be really tough. Wishing you all the best in your efforts to micromanage spaces that aren't even yours. So we've left that note and we're waiting to see what happens because I'm sure this is not going to go over well. Okay, dude, I love what the original poster did. This is literally a beautiful response, especially when you consider how they did it. The original poster actually shared a picture of what these notes looked like, and the note the neighbor left looks like it was written on like a napkin of some kind, whereas the other one had like a bunch of like rainbow stickers on it and like a lot of like smiley faces, and it really digs in the fact that this neighbor is being irrational and incredibly stupid. So yeah, good for you for putting this lady in her place and for leaving this note. This is brilliant, because if anything, this is like a masterclass in the art of being polite but also incredibly snarky. Am I the jerk for wanting to leave my husband after he has consistently disrespected me and done things to me that have made my life incredibly unpleasant? Because right now I'm seriously at my breaking point and I just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I seriously think I'm leaving my husband and I really just don't know what to do. Like every time we get into a disagreement of some kind, I see myself Googling divorce and new places to start over with my kids. To start things out, I'm a 29-year-old female and my 34-year-old husband and I have been married for almost 7 years now. We have 3 kids together and one of those kids is not his in terms of like blood relation, but he has raised this kid since they were 1 year old. And our kids' ages range from 10 to about 1.5. He is a great father and a genuine person. He was raised in an African household and can tend to be a bit rough around the edges, similar to what I understand his upbringing is. I was raised without much culture if it matters to folks who may think about it in one way or another. He is at times a great husband, but he can also stoop to really low points with me and seems to have a shorter and shorter fuse for my feelings lately, which is why I'm writing this in the first place. Today, he sent me a reel on Facebook Messenger about signs for adult women who have high-functioning autism. I couldn't think of any reason he sent me this other than to compare me to this woman. He does have an autistic adult brother who they described as high-functioning, and I'm not saying anything against folks who have this diagnosis. I mean, I have blood and married relatives who are in this diagnosis, and I love them with all my heart, but I could not figure out why he sent the video. It didn't remind me of his brother at all. I was more struck on the adult woman part of it, and the fact that he sent it to me. Like, that felt more common. So I straight up asked him, are you comparing me to this woman? And for the record, I've asked him numerous times to not compare me to other women because he has an almost toxic habit of doing it, especially when he's upset. But he said, yeah, I do some of those things. And I said, I do not understand though. I don't do those things. Why would you say that? He then just said, oh, I'm just kidding, even though his previous message had no emojis or indication of any joking tone. Plus, it's a black and white message. I didn't understand his tone from that alone. But I told him that's convenient when he said he was just joking, as in I feel that he knew I was not enjoying the conversation, and now he's backtracking by saying it's just a joke. But he just said to me, it's just a joke, never mind. He then said that I asked a weird question by wanting to know why he sent me that. But it's like I genuinely did not understand why though. He later came home and told me it was about his brother, but I still just don't see a lot of similarities between the traits in his video and his brother. On top of that, it was about an adult woman with autism and not about a man. Well, he's now mad at me and telling me I'm annoying him for making it about myself, and that he sent it to his mother too regarding his brother, and states that she would never take it there. Well, I apologize for not understanding the joke, and I asked if he could even see my point at all. I thought he was making a statement to me about a very big opinion about my demeanor, with him essentially saying that I have autism. And again, I'm not offended that he would think that about me, but to tell someone that way by sending a comparison reel and then joke about it was just really unsettling to me. Also, the fact that we can't move past it and he can't see where he went wrong by his joke, or even come to the resolution that I couldn't understand the joke because of the way it was delivered, is honestly super frustrating, and I feel as though I'm at least owed that. Our fights have been this way lately, and he seems to be getting more and more stubborn, and I'm just kind of done feeling like a punching bag or a doormat. I'm not sure where to go from here, and I feel like I'm being dramatic for feeling this way over a misunderstanding about a Facebook video, but I think it's more of how he's being currently about it that's really affecting me more. Now, other examples, as I'm sure people are wondering, is that sometimes when I'm frustrated and maybe venting, he would say that I need to be a mother, because according to him, his mother would do all this and more and just never complain. And those statements hurt, and I have had to ask him over several disagreements not to make those kind of statements towards me. Now, one of which he made after we had a month-long visit from various family members of his, and this is when I was holding our youngest at 6 weeks after he left me home alone with a baby and my toddler while I was exclusively nursing, and meanwhile, his 2 teenage brothers were occupying the common areas of our house. Now, I could not leave the bedroom, like really, because I was nursing, and the baby was cluster feeding that week, and my toddler wanted to be everywhere, and I definitely did not want to be exposed to his brothers. So with all that in mind, it was exhausting and overwhelming, and when he was taking too long to come home, and I I let him know about that, we got into a fight, and he yelled at me to be a mother and not complain that I had to have 2 kids alone. And that's not even really why I was overwhelmed, it's just that I couldn't do it comfortably, and he wasn't being considerate of that at all. He was trying to make their visit not about them meeting our new baby, but more about his family and playtime, all while I was at home with the kids a lot. Since then, he makes these comparisons a lot, and I'm really just sick of them, and I've honestly had enough. And yes, I have told him. I have sat him down and I've told him I can't be treated like this. I will leave if something doesn't give. So with all that in mind and circling back, am I the jerk for getting offended over this Facebook reel that he sent me? Because right now it really does feel like a breaking point and I just don't know what to do. Oh man, your husband does not sound like a good partner if you ask me. Like this guy would rather have playtime with his family instead of stepping in and being a father, or even being like a decent husband. Because if you ask me, that Facebook post was absolutely geared towards you. He literally sent that because he's like, oh yeah, my wife is probably autistic. Let me send this to her. And then when you didn't respond to the way you wanted to, he's like, oh, it was just a joke. Just kidding. You can't be mad anymore. I was joking. And I hate people who do that. Like genuinely, it drives me crazy. I can't stand people like this. And the fact that he's trying to pull that on you is completely toxic. So no, you're not the jerk for like feeling upset about this and getting offended. And honestly, I don't blame you for being like, I think I need to start over and find a new life. I will say that's a big decision. So maybe really think this over and like weigh your options before you make some kind of like knee-jerk decision, because this would really upend your life and all of your kids pretty quickly. But regardless, I do think your husband's being pretty toxic and you do not deserve that in the slightest. Today, my boyfriend surprised me with a gift that honestly left me feeling very unsettled, because right now I'm upset and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. My boyfriend and I have been dating for about 4 months now, and things have been going well. We see each other multiple times a week and communicate frequently. We've only had one major argument prior to this one, which was resolved soon afterwards. However, the challenge that came up recently made things more complicated. He showed up to my apartment unannounced with flowers. Instead of me responding happily, I stood there shocked and confused. We had been texting back and forth about random things all day, and he asked if I was home, but I did not think that meant that he would stop by. I hugged him lightly and I avoided eye contact because I was so caught off guard. Also, I was in my pajamas that I've never worn in front of people, and I just looked really rough. Lastly, my apartment was in disarray, and it was in the middle of a work day. Anyways, I told him he could chill with me for a little bit, but I have to get back to work. He then asked me if I could take a 5-minute break, and I said no, I should really get back to work. Well, immediately his mood shifted. I noticed this and I start to ask what's wrong, but he just wouldn't even look at me. Finally, he admitted that he felt a bit hurt by my response to his surprise, and I explained that I was completely caught off guard and I just froze up. I said I didn't like surprises. I appreciate the gesture, but showing up to my apartment unannounced did not sit right with me. Then he said he did this for National Girlfriend's Day because we both were busy tonight. I told him I love the thought behind it, but I don't respond well to surprises. He then said he understood but was clearly hurt, and then he left. I'm naturally a very private person, and he had never done any gesture like that without asking me first. It really felt like my boundaries were crossed. So seriously, is there some kind of like resolution to this? I feel very unsettled with the way things were left off, and honestly, I just don't know what to do. Okay, I've got to be completely honest. You may feel like your boundaries were crossed in some way, but guess what? You never explained these boundaries to him in the first place. So I'm sorry, but no boundaries were crossed. Just because you're telling him after the fact doesn't mean that he knew this ahead of time. It's also worth mentioning that they've only been together for like 4 months apparently, and it's like, okay, well, why are you getting so upset over something that really was meant to be in good faith? And also, why would you be upset over something like this? This seems really sweet and not malicious at all. I totally understand that you don't like surprises, and he'll definitely know that in the future, but in my opinion, I think you're making a mountain out of a molehill. And in my opinion, I think you're being very overdramatic. Am I pestering a guy who's coming with us on a trip that he needs to pay his share of the Airbnb that we're all renting out? Because right now he is literally giving me the runaround and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, so recently I went on a trip with my girlfriend and 2 of her friends, as well as my friend and someone else they brought with them. The Airbnb was $56 per person and was paid through my girlfriend's credit card. A few days passed by and I asked in an Instagram group chat with my friend and their friend who's coming along to send the money for the trip. Well, my friend pays shortly after that, but I get nothing from the other guy. Now, I've never met this guy before and I don't want to rush him, so I decide to just wait because I want to have some kind of benefit of the doubt. This guy then texted me randomly through his phone number, which I didn't give, just to try and prank me regarding my work. Now, I figured out it was him immediately, and we just talked here and there throughout the day. He was saying that we should do another hiking trip with our friend, and then later on, I asked him to send the $56 over to me. This guy then asked me why, and I tell him, well, it's for the Airbnb, but he thinks I'm talking about the Airbnb for the next trip, but then I tell him otherwise. He then tells me he gets paid on the 17th and that he'll send it then. I then just say to him, okay, that's fine, and I let it be. Airbnb. And my girlfriend also, for the record, does not want to rush him either. Well, a few days after the 17th, I check up on him and he says he accidentally spent all the money that he got paid. Now, this is to the point where my girlfriend needs to pay off her credit card already. He asked for some kind of extension and I say to him, okay, but just do it as soon as you can because the credit card has got to be paid off. He then just says to me, you can't pay it off yourself? Now, as it is the 31st, I still have gotten nothing. My girlfriend does not know about the last message that he sent me, and I have not told my friend that his friend owes me money as we are all in the midst of a good friend's death. I honestly don't know what to do and I don't want to cause problems. So am I the jerk for asking this guy to pay his share for the Airbnb? Because right now I really don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk. This is some stupid behavior. This guy's clearly playing you and he's obviously just trying to be a jerk about this, and that's not fair and you really don't deserve that. And yeah, I totally understand that there's things going on and you don't want to cause problems, but guess what? This guy's giving you the runaround. He's literally avoiding paying for a trip that he's participating in, and that is incredibly annoying in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk at all. You need to get this taken care of and this guy needs to pay up because what he's doing right now is completely unacceptable. I feel that my boyfriend has changed after a recent fight that has made him very emotionally distant. And even though he's saying that nothing's wrong and that he hasn't changed, I really feel that something went wrong and at this point I don't know how to fix the situation. Here's what's happening. So my boyfriend and I have been in a relationship for about 2 years now, and we used to be a really fun couple. We supported each other a lot and genuinely enjoyed spending time together. Though we had occasional fights, especially during college, we always managed to work through them. Now, my boyfriend is someone who tends to avoid conflict. During arguments, he shuts down or ignores me until he calms down. But I'm the exact opposite. I need to talk things through and clear the air. A few days ago, we had a big fight. He said something hurtful and I got upset, and I didn't talk to him for a day. Later, I felt bad and I messaged him, but something had completely changed. He told me things like, I don't think we have a future, or you're dating the wrong guy. It's better to end this before it becomes more difficult. And he had never said anything like that before. I asked him to give us one more chance, and after some time, he eventually agreed. But ever since then, things have felt really different. His messages seem distant, like there's less warmth, excitement, or even effort in any of them. He says he's busy or that he behaves this way when he's home, and while that is partially true, the emotional tone now feels colder than ever before. I've asked him if he's still interested in this relationship or if I should stop trying, and his response is always something like, well, you're overthinking. I've moved on from that fight and you should too. I haven't changed. This is how I've always talked and you're just noticing it now. To be fair, he's not entirely wrong. He still responds and still talks to me in his own way, but I can't shake this feeling of disconnection. Maybe I'm overanalyzing the lack of emojis or the short replies. I know that sounds silly, but it's affecting how secure I feel. I love him deeply and I don't want to lose him, but I feel stuck, constantly wondering whether I ruined everything with that one argument. So how do I stop feeling like something's off? Am I imagining it, or is there something I need to acknowledge and just act on? Because right now, I seriously just don't know what to do. Okay, so based on what you described, it does sound like your boyfriend's kind of pulling away a little bit. Like, this doesn't seem like one of those situations where you're misreading the room. Like, he really does seem like he's pulled back in some kind of way, so I can completely understand why you're stressed out about this. So yeah, hopefully this works out because it does seem like something went wrong, and I think some healthy communication will probably go a long way in this scenario. An entitled jerk scams me and a bunch of people into doing work for him for his real job, as he lied to us saying he was looking for interns for his company, despite the fact that he used us just to get work done at his real job. So I decided to get some revenge by exposing him to his current employer, resulting in this side business getting shut down, as well as this guy most likely getting fired. Here's what happened. So I'm a rising senior at a reputable engineering school in my country. I was looking for internships for the summer, and I came across a job posting on WellFound. I applied casually, and a few days later, I got a take-home assignment as part of the recruitment process and was asked to join a Discord server to better connect potential candidates with the hiring team. Well, I did some digging, and I found out that the company has very little in terms of a digital footprint. Their LinkedIn page did not mention their founder's name or any dedicated human resources person. Nevertheless, I still joined the Discord, and I tried my best to complete the assignments, which took a whole day to brainstorm. The assignment basically had a lot of stuff that could benefit the company. Since I did not have an internship, I still took my chances. I think I did pretty well, and I also had a great resume for the role. Anyways, a few days after submitting, I get a rejection email, and I honestly didn't really mind it, because I know that getting an internship isn't that easy. But then, I reached out to some other people from the Discord, and I asked them if someone was interviewed. A guy there told me that everyone was rejected, and they did the whole hiring thing to just get their work done from a ton of people. Well, I immediately got furious and literally searched every member of their Discord server and ultimately found the co-owner. I then saw his LinkedIn, and I discovered that he was working full-time for a company and was running this startup on the side. I went to LinkedIn and I found 2 human resources people from his employer, and it's here that I got their work email ID, and I decided to expose this guy to them for moonlighting. I gathered all the proof from Wellfound, LinkedIn, Discord, and the co-founder's personal portfolio, where he had mentioned his startup as his side project, even though they were definitely running a full-time company. Now, fast forward a few days and the startup's Discord server is deleted. Their Reddit page went private, their Wellfound says that this company has been closed, and the founder's portfolio page is gone. Since all of this happened, I'm assuming that human resources definitely talked to him, and he was most likely fired. And this was a person, by the way, with 2 master's degrees, 7 to 8 years of experience, and I'm just a 20-year-old college student. And I'm sure he could get another job, but I'm just glad that I got my revenge on this guy because what he was doing was so messed up. Oh man, this guy absolutely is a con artist, like seriously. He literally scammed you and a bunch of other people into like doing work for him. And that's messed up if you ask me, like seriously, there's no good excuse for that. So good for you for exposing this guy. He absolutely deserved to get shut down, especially if he's going to be taking advantage of people like this, because that is just unacceptable. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for refusing to take time off of my work schedule just to help my friend set up for her wedding, especially after she volunteered my boyfriend without asking me first? Here's what's happening. I'm a 35-year-old female and I'm a bridesmaid for my friend who we will call Anna. The wedding is at the end of August and it's about 2 hours away. The bridal party consists of me, as well as Christine, Marla, Chris, who is a male friend, and Anna's sister. All of the names, by the way, are fake. And my boyfriend, who we will call Tristan, who is also a part of our friend group, is officiating everything. So far, I've paid for the bridesmaid dress, the bachelorette party, which I helped organize and pay for, the bridal shower party, the wedding gift, and my transportation and accommodations. I'm about $1,500 in, and that's before the wedding gift itself. Now, back in May, Anna messaged me, Marla, and Christine saying that she told Chris he needs to be there at 10 o'clock in the morning on Friday before the wedding. It felt like her way of announcing that we were all expected to be there early without asking. I then called her and I explained that it wasn't reasonable for all of us to take a full day off of work, especially since her fiance's family gave her like $50,000 that she's been bragging about nonstop, which could easily cover a setup crew. To her credit, she backtracked and messaged and said, "Sorry about the earlier text. If you can make it up to help, that would be really appreciated. But I understand that people have jobs. I need everyone there for the rehearsal at 4:00 p.m. We all agreed to that plan, and then this week she sends a new message to the group. "We'll have access to the venue at 9 o'clock in the morning on Friday. If someone can help before 2 o'clock, it would be super appreciated. Also, at 2 o'clock, we'll have a 45-minute rehearsal. You'll have plenty of time to relax before the dinner." When Chris pushed back on this, because he has work, and mentioned Tristan drives us, Anna just replied in the group chat saying that Tristan will be there Friday to help out, which is something she said without even asking me first. And you know what? This is what really got to me. She's always making weird comments like, "Oh, Tristan would do anything for me." And now she's volunteering him like he's her personal backup. Tristan later told me that when she brought it up in person, she phrased it as if I'd already agreed. So he said yes because he didn't think he had a choice. Well, when I told him I hadn't, he let out a laugh and said, "All right, no big deal. Just blame me and then we won't go." So I texted her. I reminded her that she'd originally said 4:00 p.m. I told her it was too late for us to take off work and that Tristan wouldn't be there Friday. Well, she just read the message, reacted to it with a heart, and then never replied. And just for a bit of context, Anna and her fiance are already legally married. They went to City Hall last year. None of us were invited. And also, she broke up with her ex of 5 years in June, started dating her now husband immediately, who is, by the way, a regular at the bar where she worked at, got engaged by August, and has bragged about his $40,000 ring and trust fund ever since then. Between the cost, the time off, and her volunteering my boyfriend, I feel completely taken advantage of. So seriously, am I the jerk for refusing to go early in this situation? Because right now I'm still incredibly frustrated. No, you're not the jerk. It sounds like your friend's super annoying and they're probably just excited to get married or something like that, but it does sound like they're also like really stepping over the line when it comes to like volunteering Tristan, because clearly Tristan was like, "No, I'm not doing that. I only signed up to say yes because I thought you were like in the loop." And for me personally, and this is just my opinion, the second someone volunteers me for something without asking me about it first, that's the second I no longer trust them and will probably never want to talk to them ever again. Like that's a one-way ticket to me never being your friend probably ever again. So no, you're not the jerk for refusing to like go early for this, because from the sounds of it, your friend is super unorganized and just a little bit toxic. And that is not something I would ever entertain in the slightest. My mom has given me an ultimatum when it comes to my girlfriend, saying that if I stay with her, she's gonna disappear from my life completely. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. I'm a 25-year-old male and I've been seeing my girlfriend for about 9 months now. I really do love her a lot and I feel like she could definitely be the one. The chemistry was amazing and I moved into her place place after a few months. We've been living together ever since, and things have been going pretty smoothly. My mom had a very tumultuous relationship with my dad, who suffered from undiagnosed mental health conditions and some physical ones for the majority of my childhood, and they divorced when I was a teenager. Well, because of this, she has some trauma regarding mental health. My partner has recently been going through some mental health problems and had to go to the hospital for a short stay, and it seems like a temporary but potentially reoccurrent problem. Well, because of this news, my mom has provided me the ultimatum between her and my partner. I was told if I choose my partner, she will disappear from my life completely. Now, my mother is definitely psychologically unwell, but she also refuses to see a psychiatrist or a therapist, so there's not much I can do about it. She has told me in the past in several outbursts to not come home, saying that I'm not her son anymore and all this other stuff, but she seems pretty serious this time around. I know we've been only together for a short time, but I really can see myself spending the rest of my life with my girlfriend. What should I do? Okay, this is some weird stuff because honestly, the second someone gives an ultimatum, especially about something like this where it's like, wait a second, how does this have anything to do with you in the first place? Like, that's the second some big red flags pop up in my head because this is so irrational. I understand that your mom had like a bad go around with your dad, as he clearly had some undiagnosed mental health problems and all this other stuff going on, but that doesn't mean it's related to your girlfriend in any way. Like, seriously, what's going on right now? This is so stupid. Just because that happened to her doesn't mean it's gonna happen to you. And obviously, from the sounds of it, your girlfriend is way different than your dad. She's actually like getting help that she needs as opposed to your dad who didn't do anything to help himself out. So personally, I find this ultimatum ridiculous, and I'm so sorry you're dealing with this because you definitely do not deserve this. I moved to my partner's country after I got pregnant, and now I feel like his family always comes first above me because at this point, I'm really overwhelmed and I just don't know what to do. Here's how it's all going down. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I moved to Mexico last year to be with my partner who's 32 years old. We were only supposed to be visiting. I had been living and working in Australia and had just gotten approved for a visa extension after working so hard for it. I was so proud and excited about the future I had built for myself. But then during a vacation with my partner, I found out that I was pregnant. We were happy, but everything completely changed. I couldn't return to Australia. The life I worked so hard for slipped away overnight, and that still hurts me to this day. At first, we lived with his parents. They were kind and spoke English, but I quickly became overwhelmed. I come from a distant, emotionally reserved family, and constant interaction, daily socializing, and living in someone else's space while pregnant was exhausting. I was physically and emotionally drained, and we were constantly visiting extended family. Eventually, I asked my partner if we could move out, and thankfully, we did exactly that. Things became a little calmer. Then our daughter was born. I love her more than anything, but I've been struggling. I think I might have postpartum depression. I'm doing almost everything too, by the way. Breastfeeding, pumping, cooking, cleaning, laundry, bottle washing, baby care, even taking Spanish classes. I've told my partner again and again how overwhelmed I am. I know he is busy because he has his own business and he works from home, so he's working all the time. So I understand if he is tired after working and not having enough sleep, but it's like me too, I sleep even less. But I literally begged him for help, even with small things like not leaving dirty dishes everywhere, but bring them to the sink to make it easier for me. He helps take care of the baby with like diaper changes, and lately he helps me bathe her almost every day because I have back pain. Now when it comes to house chores, he sometimes helps, but most of the time it's on me. I really don't want to argue about the same thing over and over again, but I feel like I'm constantly repeating myself and just being ignored. We've talked about taking a trip to recharge, but when I suggest ideas, he says they are way too much of a tourist destination and then just doesn't follow up. When he brings up travel, it's almost always about visiting family. Every single time. I once suggested spending Christmas somewhere snowy like in the United States, and his first response was to say, "What about my parents? What about my brother and his wife? You know, who doesn't even have a US visa." He is a US citizen himself, but it's never just about us. He says I'm not being forced to go, but when I say no, he gives me disappointed looks. So I always end up going out of guilt. He tells me, "Oh, they're your family too, but they don't feel like mine. I barely know them. I come from a broken home, and I struggle with closeness, even with my own relatives." I feel like he's pushing me into something I'm not emotionally ready for. But lately, it's gotten even worse. His parents temporarily moved in with his grandparents, so now when we visit, it's even more people, all speaking Spanish with more pressure to socialize. I feel so drained by these visits, I just sometimes skip meals just to avoid sitting at the table and pretending that I'm okay. It's not because I dislike them, it's just too much for me. I feel like I disappear. I've been asking him for months to help finalize our baby's passport, but it's been 4 months and still I get nothing. I'm the one carrying all the emotional and mental load, and I'm honestly drowning. I know his family is going through a lot right now. His dad has cancer, his mom recently had surgery, his grandma is about to have one, one, and his grandpa just had eye surgery, and I still feel bad after he got stung by scorpions. I truly understand why he wants to be there for them, but during my pregnancy, I lost all 3 of my grandparents. I never got to say goodbye. I'm grieving too, even if I wasn't that close to them. I'm here away from my family, my culture, my friends, and the future I worked so hard for. And I feel like no one even sees that, not even him. He wants me to bond with his family, but he's never even asked me if I want to. He will just turn to our 4-month-old and say, "Are you excited to visit your grandparents?" But never once has he asked me, "Are you excited?" I finally told him, "Look, you're the one who wants to go. I'm not." Now, here's the thing. I'm trying to be a good mom. I'm trying to be a good partner, but I'm exhausted and I'm grieving. And I feel like I just don't matter. How do I talk to him in a way that actually gets through? I'm trying not to be selfish, and I know his family needs him, but I feel like I'm slowly falling apart. I don't want to resent him, but I'm honestly getting close. Because right now, I really don't know what to do. Oh man, that sounds really rough. I'm so sorry that you're going through that. That kind of sounds like my personal nightmare. Like I would not handle that situation well at all. So if it's any consolation, like you're handling this way better than I would. Like I would be pissed off and really down in the dumps. There wouldn't be a lot of things that could kind of pull me out of it. So like you're handling this really well. But I think in this scenario, talking to your husband and being like, "Look, I'm overwhelmed and I'm losing it. I'm burnt out and I need some kind of help here." Something like that would be probably super helpful in articulating that, yeah, you're drowning and you need a break. Because it sounds like you're handling all this by yourself. And yeah, I get that your husband has his own like business and stuff like that, but seriously, he should really be more involved. You should not be expected to handle all of this by yourself on top of adjusting to a new culture that you're kind of like thrown into. So hopefully this all works out because this really does sound very frustrating and I'm so sorry that you're dealing with it. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my cousin borrow my BMW just so he can use it for his wedding? Because right now he's claiming that I'm ruining his big day by saying no, and at this point I'm just super frustrated and I don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I own a BMW that I've spent years working on. For reference, I'm a 31-year-old male, and this is my dream car that I take care of religiously. Like, I don't even let valet drivers touch it. My cousin, who's a 28-year-old male, is getting married next week. He asked me if he could borrow my BMW for the ceremony so that he could arrive in style, but I politely said no, explaining that I don't let anyone drive my car, not even close family. Well, when I said that, he got upset, and he said that I was ruining his big day and that I care more about a car than my family. Some of my relatives think I'm being selfish and that it's just one day, so why not just hand it over? But from my perspective, if something happened to the car, it simply wouldn't be worth the risk. Weddings are hectic and parking lots are chaotic, and accidents happen. So seriously, with all things considered, am I the jerk for refusing to let him borrow my BMW? Because right now, I'm honestly still pretty annoyed. No, this guy's so stupid. The fact that your cousin's trying to be like, "Oh, come on, you gotta worry about your family. You're ruining my big day by not handing over your expensive car." Like, dude, come on. If he really wants a fancy car, then he can rent one like anybody else. That way he can have the extravagant entrance that he wants, and also he doesn't ruin your car in the process. And no, he's probably not gonna wreck it. Like, I'm sure he's gonna be a reasonable person, but the original poster, in my opinion, has it right. Weddings and parking lots all get really hectic sometimes, and accidents absolutely can happen. So in my opinion, I think you're not the jerk and you absolutely are well within your right to tell him no. And if he really wants to take this in a bad way, then honestly, that's on him and not on you. My entitled sister gets me incredibly cheap chocolates and a cheap card for my birthday, as she did this in a very petty and spiteful way. So I decided to fight fire with fire and destroy her with kindness by returning the favor in a way that truly left her shocked and incredibly embarrassed. Here's what happened. A few years ago, I had a very big argument with my sister. The story is far too long to post, but it's something that was building since we were kids. She always treated me very badly, but I always kept it amicable for the family. But this time it went too far, and we had a massive blowout on our family's group chat. Anyways, we ignored each other for some time after that, but finally had to appear face to face at a family gathering, which happened to be a few weeks after my birthday. Now, I really should explain, but I hate my birthday, and I wouldn't care if someone didn't want to buy me a present, as I get very uncomfortable receiving them. But that birthday, my sister rocks up with a present and a card for me, and it was just a small box of cheap chocolates and a card. Both of them, by the way, with the prices still on them. And the chocolates were like $2 and the card was like maybe 25 cents. Now, here's the thing. If that's all someone can afford to buy, or even all that someone wants to spend, I have zero issue with that whatsoever. But the fact that she left the prices on and the smirk on her face let me know that it was a deliberate dig. She really is the spiteful type, and I just knew it. So her birthday comes around a couple of months later, and I immediately thought about how I should handle it. I mean, I could easily find a cheaper box of chocolate and a cheaper card to leave the prices on, but then I remembered a quote my mom used to say a lot: if you want to get back at them, just destroy them with kindness. So I went out and I bought a moderately expensive and very thoughtful gift that I knew she would love. And I bought the most expensive card I could find, which was about $5. I didn't leave the price on the gift as I thought that was a little over the top, and the thoughtfulness of it was enough, but I did leave the price on the card. Well, that smug smirk on her face when she gave me my present was nowhere to be seen, but instead it was replaced by sheer shock and embarrassment. We still haven't talked about it years later, but the pettiness from there on out definitely stopped. Oh yeah, this absolutely seemed very intentional and very targeted. Like, this is some stupid behavior if you ask me. Like, honestly, just be normal. I can't stand pettiness or like passive aggressiveness where someone's clearly making digs at you without actually making any kind of comment. And it's clear that she was trying to make some kind of like remark towards you of like, oh yeah, you're only worth cheap chocolates and a cheap card. It's not worth buying anything more for you. Or something like that. Like, this really is kind of what I'm getting from this. So honestly, good for you for like fighting fire with fire. Because from the sounds of it, your sister sounds very annoying. So getting back at her in this way just seems to make a lot of sense. Am I the jerk for having a male friend come and visit me who was making the time to stop by while on a cross-country road trip? Because right now, my boyfriend is very pissed off at me and is even going as far as sleeping in the house that we're remodeling. And at this point, I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, for a bit of context, I'm a 29-year-old female, and I met this friend who I will call Rick in 2019 while I was working a seasonal wildland fire job in Idaho. We spent 5 months working together, and we were in the same truck assignment on the crew, so we especially spent a lot of time together. Now, we've only ever had a platonic relationship. I am still in touch with them and a few others from the crew, both male and female, and I visited and also been visited by about 5 to 6 other people from this job. After this job, I lived in California and Oregon, and Rick continued to live in Idaho, and I saw him a few times when I would visit Idaho for rafting or kayaking trips, either camping with him and the others I was traveling with, or staying at his Forest Service camper, and again, always having platonic separate sleeping arrangements. We talk on the phone once every few months, and Rick also has a girlfriend of about 2 years. For additional context, Rick has interacted with my parents when I would call home, and although he doesn't know them that well, he has had a friendly acquaintance with them from afar. Well, flash forward to present day, and Rick is relocating from Idaho back to his home state of South Carolina, and I now live in my home state of Minnesota, and it adds about 2 hours to his 30+ hours of driving to go through my town. And on the way, he's also making stops in Indiana to see some friends as well. I live in a house with my boyfriend of just under a year, and there is not great guest accommodations. A guest would need to sleep on the futon on the porch if they wanted to. Also, I work at a fire department on like a 24-hour shift, and I'm working from Wednesday until Friday. Well, Rick wanted to come to town Wednesday evening, hang out Thursday, and then depart on early Friday. And I said, yeah, that sounds good. And then the plan was for him to stay at my parents' house 10 minutes away because they have a larger home that has a lot more space for any kind of guest. Well, my boyfriend of just under 1 year told me ahead of time that he didn't love that I had a guy friend coming to visit, and he thought that it was super weird that he was going to stay with my parents. He said he knows he can't ask me to change who I am or get rid of friends, but it just feels weird and it makes him uncomfortable. Now, I've explained the full context of my friendship to him, and I want to be sensitive to his feelings, but I don't think it's reasonable to alter friendships I've had long before knowing him that are not inappropriate in the slightest. And he is actually fine with some of my male friends that live here and actively enjoys them, and at this point, he would even consider them a friend of his. I thought my boyfriend was accepting, although not excited about the plan, but now it's Thursday and it's causing a huge outburst again. My boyfriend then chose not to have dinner with my family and Rick, and instead chose to work on the house remodeling at a property that is a mile from where we live. And it's like, okay, fine, go ahead and do that. I get done with dinner at around 7:30, and I call immediately upon leaving, but I get no answer. I swing by the remodeled house and no one's there. So I think to myself, okay, maybe he's going to get food himself. But when I get back to our house, there is no sign of him. I then call and text him once an hour goes by. I then finally hear from him at 9:15 at night. He's at the remodel house and his phone has been on the charger while he went out to get food for himself. But I think it's complete garbage that he couldn't communicate that he would be home way later than normal. And he's also saying that he's going to stay at that house tonight. So am I really the jerk for having a male friend come visit me in this fashion? I asked my boyfriend if our roles were reversed. Would he have told his friends not to visit or had them stay in a hotel? But when I asked this, he provided no answer to these questions. Also, this is the first time he has decided to stay up at that house ever since the remodel began about 4 months ago. What should I do? Okay, I'm gonna echo what someone said in the comments section, but your boyfriend sounds incredibly immature and very insecure. Like seriously, this is clearly just a friend from an old job you did several years ago. And the fact that your boyfriend can't see that is really weird in my opinion. So no, you're not the jerk, and like honestly, you haven't done anything wrong. Because in my opinion, you've done everything right to make sure this goes as smoothly smoothly as possible. My husband and his friends tricked me into believing that they got detained at the border, causing me to freak out in a way that honestly was just so distressing. But after I found out it was a prank, I'm honestly feeling so devastated because right now I'm so upset that I just don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, so I'm pregnant with my second child, and yesterday my husband spontaneously decided that he was going to cross the border with some friends to go shopping. He literally told me this 2 hours before he was leaving, but I just decided not to make a big deal out of it. I had some friends coming over for dinner, and I'm used to handling my toddlers solo most nights, although some are harder than others because I'm in my second trimester of pregnancy. Since I had some girls over, we were watching the new Superman movie, and my phone is usually silent, so after the movie, I picked up my phone to check on it, and I noticed I had missed calls from my husband and a couple missed calls from his friend. I then looked at a text message which said that my husband needed to be picked up from the border because apparently they were detaining him. Now, I was really genuinely worried because my husband is a citizen of our country now, but he is originally an immigrant, and he has had issues with his passport before, and the whole group of them had gotten pulled over by a border patrol because one of the other passengers in the car had an issue with his passport or his visa. Now, it was almost 12 o'clock at night, so admittedly, I wasn't thinking properly. I called my husband and the phone was ringing and he just wasn't answering. I then called the friend that notified me, but it was going straight to voicemail as well. I also tried to get a hold of that friend's wife, and then eventually just called everybody that I knew, but nobody was answering. I felt horrified because my phone is always on silent, and my husband needed me and I didn't come through. For a bit of context, I'm not somebody who drives very long distances due to some anxiety of the highway, and this is from a really bad accident my mom got into when I was a teenager. I don't even know where the border is, but at this point, I just started dressing up my toddler. I mean, I didn't even know what to do with her. Well, as I was finishing getting ready to leave, my husband called me and him and his idiot friends were all in the video smiling at me because at this point, I found out that it was all a prank. I feel like at the time I wasn't processing everything, so I made light of it and I told them they were all idiots and I told him not to come home. But as I processed the evening, I started to feel very angry and very hurt. I don't understand what's so funny about playing a joke like this on a pregnant person. The friend that made this joke has a pregnant wife himself. I was really irritated and I started texting my husband, and he basically blamed me for believing his friend, pointing out all the ways that it didn't make any sense, and then proceeded to upload a photo of him and his friends enjoying a milkshake when I was literally in panic mode the entire time I couldn't get a hold of him. I literally felt myself about to have a panic attack. He gets home at about 2 o'clock in the morning and tries to cuddle up with me, but at this point I am furious. Now, we had a family outing planned today, which I completely canceled because there's no way we were going to wake up early enough to get ourselves prepared for that. Also, it was a trip that was only supposed to take supposedly a couple of hours, like 4 at most, ended up taking 8 hours altogether, which means I didn't get anything prepared. And because I made a whole big deal about it and contacted so many people, today I woke up to basically being laughed at, and I know that if I react, they're just gonna say it was a joke or something like that. I'm literally so upset, and I woke up this morning and I just started crying. But maybe I just don't know how to take a joke, but maybe it's the hormones as well. So honestly, am I overreacting here? Because at this point, I'm incredibly frustrated and very upset. Holy crap, this is not okay in my opinion. Okay, first of all, your husband is super toxic for doing this, and the fact that he played along with this, or if anything like orchestrated it, in my opinion is super messed up. Like, why would he do that to his pregnant wife? Like, what a weird way of like behaving altogether. Like, that really sucks in my opinion. And no, this is not one of those situations where you can't take a joke. This is not a joke. This is something that has happened to people, and I'm sure the original poster was freaking out thinking, oh my god, it's happening to my husband. Like, he really fits the bill for these idiots arresting people for illegitimate reasons. So no, this is not okay. This is very messed up, and in my opinion, this is completely over the line. Because this is not a prank that you should do to anybody, let alone your pregnant wife who was clearly worried sick. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for demanding my friend pay me fuel money after I had to drive 3 hours back to the hotel, all because he left some stuff there? Because right now he is freaking out on me, saying that he doesn't owe me a penny, and at this point I honestly don't know what to do. Here's what's going down. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I live in East Yorkshire, England, and we went on a road trip to South Wales for a couple of days, which is a 5.5-hour drive from where I live. Now, this is a friend I have known for a very long time. He was actually supposed to drive and agreed to because I am not comfortable driving long distances like that, but he hurt his foot at the gym the day before, and I basically had no choice but to drive. Anyways, it was all fine. We ended up getting there and we had a good time, but the problem came when we left. My friend booked the hotel we stayed at, and he was the one who signed in and out. So over halfway home, 3 3 hours into driving, he realizes he left a bunch of his stuff at the hotel. His wallet, his house keys, and his own car keys. He then freaked out and begged me to go back. By the way, no one else would be in his house, and he needed his car to go to work on Monday. Now, of course, I was very frustrated by this. It messed up my own plans and meant adding 6 more hours of driving in total, which was completely exhausting. And keep in mind, this is driving in England, nothing like the nice open American roads. I probably did say some mean things in frustration, but I relented and I did it anyways. I drove back and we got his stuff, and after a horrible drive, we finally got home. I then realized that I had spent about $70 on fuel because of the extra 6 hours. I then told him that in no uncertain terms, I expect him to give me the money. To me, this is completely fair, but he disagreed. He couldn't believe I was even asking. He exclaimed out loud, "But that's what friends do." He then just shouted and argued and then stormed off. But I am not backing down. And at this point, mutual friends are now messaging me saying that I'm the jerk. So seriously, am I the jerk? Because this is honestly so ridiculous. Oh my gosh, you have crappy friends. This guy literally added 6+ hours to your driving time, all because he forgot his crap at the hotel. Like at that point, you're absolutely going to be owing me that $70. Because it's either that or trust me, we will probably not be very close friends after that. And you know what? You're completely within your rights to demand that. That is 100% reasonable, and the fact that he's freaking out is completely stupid. So no, you're not the jerk, because your friend absolutely owes you. An entitled Karen allows her kid to climb all over me while I'm in my wheelchair, and despite the fact that I demanded she get her kid off of me, she still literally encouraged it to happen, saying there was nothing wrong with it and that I was overreacting. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened about a month ago, and honestly, I am still in shock. I'm a 28-year-old female, and I have a spinal condition that requires me to use a wheelchair pretty much full time. It's not rented or borrowed, it's mine. It's fitted for me, and it costs more than my car. Now, just to set the scene, I was flying home after visiting family, and I got to the airport early. I was sitting near the gate with my headphones in, sipping on a drink, just minding my own business. But suddenly, I feel my chair jolt backwards a little bit. I look over my shoulder and there's a little boy, maybe 5 or 6 years old, trying to climb into my lap. I then gently stop him and I say that it's not something he can play on. Well, not even 10 seconds later, his mom appears and immediately tells me to not be rude, that he's just playing. Now, I was honestly stunned for a second. Then I calmly told her that this is my wheelchair, a medical device, not a ride. But when I say this, she laughs at me. Then she says, "Oh, you're just sitting there. What's the harm anyways? It's like a stroller, right?" But it's like, no, it's not. I explain again more firmly that it's not safe and wildly inappropriate to let her child try to climb on me. She rolls her eyes and says people are so uptight these days. Now, security at the gate had seen what had happened and came over to check in. They asked if I wanted to report it, but honestly, I just wanted to board early and be done with it. As they were walking me to the pre-boarding area, I could still hear her saying to her kid that some people fake being disabled for attention and that you shouldn't be fooled. And it's like, girl, if I wanted attention, I would get it by standing up and doing a backflip, but I literally can't. It honestly makes me wonder what's wrong with people like this, because this was so wildly inappropriate. Oh man, the original poster is a better person than me because I would have 100% reported them. Like seriously, the second that kid started climbing on me and she started justifying it, that would be the moment I report them and just absolutely take the time to make sure she gets punished for that. Because the way she was acting was super entitled and incredibly inappropriate, and you definitely did not deserve that. Am I the jerk for wanting to leave my wife after she cheated during a dark phase in our marriage? Because right now I'm still incredibly upset and I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my wife and I have been married for about 3 years and been together overall for about 9. Last year, we went through something really painful. We had a Maltese dog that meant the world to me, and it originally belonged to my mom, who passed away a few years ago. The dog was energetic and super fast, and we always made sure to be careful with open doors. One day, my wife accidentally left the door open for just a second, and the dog bolted out. It ran into the street, and it was unfortunately hit by a car. It was a really traumatic thing for us to go through. My wife was constantly crying, blaming herself, apologizing over and over again. I told her I didn't blame her, but I also admitted I needed some mental space and therapy to avoid building up resentment. During this phase, I started staying over at a hotel more often just to clear my head. I did 6 sessions of online therapy over 3 months, and I genuinely felt like I came out of it healed and ready to move forward with her. But right towards the end of that healing phase, she confessed that she had a one-night stand with a coworker a few nights prior. She said that she had been in a dark place for months, and when her coworker praised and complimented her, she finally just caved. She broke down crying, saying that she'd do anything to make things right, quit her job, go to counseling, literally anything. She was crying so much, I've honestly never seen her cry like this ever. I was really shocked and I told her to leave me alone. I then confided in my brother and sister, and they both were surprisingly understanding of her. They said I had emotionally abandoned her during the hardest time in her life, and maybe this was her way of latching onto something that made her feel seen. They said I shouldn't have stayed over at a hotel that often, and that families should go through struggles together. They encouraged me to consider couples counseling before making any decisions. But here's the thing, I don't think I can move past this. I never blamed her for the dog. I gave myself space, I sought help, and I came back ready to rebuild. But now this betrayal has opened up a different kind of pain. I just don't know if I can trust her ever again. My wife is trying anything for reconciliation. She even said I can sleep with anyone or do anything that I want. But it's not about that. It's just that I've lost all love and respect for her entirely. So am I the jerk for not wanting to try and save this? Because right now I really am not sure what to do. Dude, okay, first off, your sister and brother are complete idiots. Who in their right mind would be like, I can't believe you're leaving her over this. She was emotionally abandoned. This was the only way she could be seen. And it's like, oh, okay, I understand what you're saying. So cheating is the only way she could be seen. Not talking it through or talking with their husband or I don't know, like going for a walk or getting therapy. Yeah, cheating's the only way she could have figured things out. Like, holy crap, what is happening right now? That is a terrible justification. And your siblings are morons for trying to justify this cheating. Look, I totally understand that people grieve things in different ways. And sure, personally, I do find it kind of weird that you stayed at a hotel and like you wouldn't even like stay around her or something like that. But never in a million years would any of your behavior justify what she did. Like, that is crazy in my opinion. I don't care what kind of dark place you go to, there's no justification for this. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all for the decision you're making, because what your wife did is completely unacceptable and I just don't think there's any justifying it. My entitled roommate is one of the worst people I've had to deal with in a long time, because after she took my other roommate's charger for over 4 hours and refused to give it back, we realized that this lady was completely out of her mind, making us regret ever allowing her to live with us in the first place. Here's how it happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I never imagined that I would be posting here. I'm a longtime lurker on this subreddit and rarely meet such entitled individuals. This happened about a week ago to my housemate, a lovely girl, and I witnessed everything as it went down. I'm gonna refer to my nice housemate as Anna, who is a 21-year-old female, and the perpetrator housemate as Brittany. Now, Brittany, who's a 20-year-old female, is our newest housemate and has only been here for 2 months so far. We all had been nice and welcoming to her, but clearly that made her think that we're some kind of jerk doormats who won't stand up to her garbage. This time, she needed a phone charger, so she knocked on Anna's door and asked if she could borrow hers. Now, Anna was heading out, so she gave Brittany her charger and said that she can have it for the duration of her absence. Well, Anna returned like 4 hours later. I had opened the toilet door about to come out when I saw Anna knocking on Brittany's door and asking nicely, by the way, if she can have her charger back. I didn't want to miss this, so I was standing in the doorway at an angle that Brittany would not see me, but I would be able to see Anna speaking to her. Brittany opened her door, looked at Anna square in her face, and dropped a resounding no. Now, I've had issues with Brittany before, and I have so many stories about her shenanigans, but I was truly shocked at this. Like, seriously, the audacity of this lady. Anna then said, "It's my charger. You've had it for all that time I was gone. I need it now that my phone's dead." But Brittany refused again, saying that she wasn't given enough time and she still needed it, going as far as to blame the charger, saying it's not my fault that it's slow. At this point, Anna is as mad as she is confused, and she said she wants her charger back right this second. And I swear to you, I hear Brittany say the word no about 3 more times before I fully emerged from the bathroom door and walked towards Anna. As soon as Brittany heard footsteps, she slammed the door shut and screamed, "I'm getting the charger, okay?" She opened her door once again and basically threw the charger at Anna and slammed the door shut again. Me and Anna then exchanged the most baffled, bewildered looks because we were just completely flabbergasted. Now, Brittany didn't know that I had heard everything, so she felt comfortable later on to try and twist the whole narrative and directly label Anna as a mean girl and herself as a victim to me. The weirdo ambushed me in the kitchen that night to get me on her side, and I, of course, was having none of it, but that's another story in and of itself. She's unfortunately still here, obviously, so the drama is far from over. A truly bizarre, entitled individual with the worst case of victim mentality I've ever seen, but at least we now know to never help her out with anything ever again. Dude, imagine being so weird that you literally try to sit there and be like, 4 hours isn't enough. I need this charger for longer. Like, if your phone is not fully charged after 4 hours, then you might have something wrong with your phone and you might need to get something new. Like, that's just really weird. And it's so funny that she was giving Anna the runaround, because I'm fairly convinced she probably would have like gone along with this for as long as possible unless you had been there to like step up and just be present, because she clearly sees you as like some kind of way of making Anna look bad, despite the fact that Anna didn't do anything wrong. So yeah, this is a weird roommate, and hopefully stuff like this kind of slows down and she eventually moves out or something like that, because living with someone like this sounds like an absolute living nightmare. Today, I messed up by thinking a girl was flirting with me, when in reality, she was trying to set me up to sell me insurance. And I now feel really dumb and incredibly stupid. And anytime I think about this situation, I can't help but die inside just a little bit more. Here's how it went down. So a few weeks ago, I was at a coffee shop just minding my own business when this girl suddenly approached me. She was super friendly, asked if she could sit at my table as it was a crowded place, and we ended up talking for a while. She was laughing at my jokes, complimented my watch, even said something like, "You have a really calm energy, it's really refreshing." And my brain's like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is how Netflix romances begin. We exchanged numbers, or rather, she took mine and said she'd love to catch up again soon. The next day, she texted me, "Hey, so nice chatting yesterday. Let's connect sometime this week." And at this point, I'm already planning what shirt I'll wear. We set up a catch-up at a quiet, loungy place, and I show up slightly overdressed. And she's already seated with a laptop, a folder, and what I now realize was a not flirty smile. It was a sales smile. She then starts the conversation by saying, "So I don't know if you've ever considered a long-term investment plan that also protects your loved ones, but let's talk a little." And when she said this, I died a little inside. I sat there for 40 minutes while she pitched me life insurance like I was some kind of 50-year-old family man with mortgage anxiety. The compliments, oh, it was just rapport building. The number exchange was a lead capture. And the refreshing calm energy she claimed was probably code for, oh, this guy looks too polite to leave mid-pitch. To make it worse though, I nodded through the whole thing like I was still trying to impress her. And honestly, whenever I think about this situation, I feel incredibly stupid. Oh my gosh, this is so messed up. That was deeply manipulative. And a lot of people in the comments basically said that on this post, where it's like, yeah, this is like completely screwed up. Because what she was doing was 100% flirting, at least in my opinion. Like, she's sitting down and she's like, "Oh, I like your watch. You're so funny. You have a calm and refreshing energy. Let's meet up sometime." Like, that really does sound like someone who met you suddenly and said, "Hey, let's meet up and get to know each other more." Like, oh, I don't know, a date or something like that. So you did everything right. You literally showed up trying to look nice and trying to spend time with this lady, but for her to turn around and be like, "Okay, just kidding, I'm a salesperson, let's get started." Like, that is some super scumbag behavior if you ask me. So honestly, I don't think this is that much of a mess up, because the way she was going about doing this was incredibly flirty off the bat. And I seriously don't think this is your fault at all, because this really was incredibly sketchy. My psycho coworker literally gets revenge in a way that I never expected, putting one of my other coworkers in his place who just so happened to cross him at the worst time possible, resulting in one of the most shocking displays of revenge I've probably seen in a long time. Here's how it all went down. So to start things out, I work at remote mining, which attracts many strange and interesting characters, and surprisingly, I am the normal one amongst all of them. One construction site I worked on last year was coming to the end, which meant a lot of the temporary facilities were being pulled out to be installed at a new site, resulting in a lack of clothing, washing, and drying facilities. Now, you work 12 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3 weeks straight, and in a perfect world, you put the clothes in the washing machine after work, have dinner, transfer the finished clothing into the dryer, then have a couple of beers before removing the dry clothing before heading off to get some sleep. The only problem is that the washing part takes about 25 minutes and the drying part takes about 90, resulting in a backlog of wet clothing waiting for some Westinghouse warmth. The system is compounded by some users having a few too many beers and forgetting to remove their dry clothing or just going to bed. So the unofficial protocol is to transfer dried clothing to the bench to free up the machine for your own clothing. But sometimes people get impatient and they transfer almost but not quite dry clothing to the bench. And this is certainly annoying, but it is what it is. One evening before flyout day, when washing facilities are in higher demand, I'm chilling in the laundry with only a handful of minutes left on my dryer when one of the supervisors walks in. He is a jerk with anger issues who I only know by reputation, but he is about to be the hero of this story. Supervisor Richard opens the dryer his clothing's in and looks really confused. Those aren't his clothes. His clothes are in a wet pile on the bench. Some entitled idiot had removed his still dripping wet clothing to put their own in, and he was incredibly angry when he saw this. But surprisingly, he just kind of walked out. Well, a few minutes later, I'm cleaning out my clothing out of my now finished dryer when he storms back in, striding straight up to the dryer containing the clothing that is not his. He then tears open 2 Mars bars that he just bought from the camp shop, breaks them in half, tosses them into the dryer, closes the door, and then sets the timer for 90 minutes on high heat. I gesture to him my now empty dryer, gather all of my things, and then I leave as he starts gathering up his clothing. Now, I did quietly ask around when I flew back in, but nobody had heard of it. But that's not a surprise with a workplace of a couple of thousand people, many of which were finishing up every week. So the lesson of this story is that you really should be careful with who you mess with, because there's always a bigger jerk around the corner who's waiting to ruin your day. Oh my gosh, I can't imagine watching that happen. Like, first of all, this guy clearly lives up to his reputation. He sees his clothing dripping wet on the bench and he's like, oh, I'm not gonna stand for this. I'm gonna get get back at this guy in a way he'll never forget. And his way of getting back is like ruining the clothing and making them wash it probably multiple times. And you know for a fact that that chocolate's gonna be baked into that clothing forever. That is never getting out of that. Like he put it on the highest setting for 90 minutes. That's gonna get all over the place. It might even like ruin the dryer. So honestly, I find this so hilarious. I know if this was me, I would be mildly annoyed, but I would just wait my turn. But this guy absolutely saw red and said, oh no, I'm gonna punish this guy for messing with me. Which in my opinion is really messed up, but also incredibly hilarious. Thanks for watching. Subscribe down below if you haven't already. And also, please subscribe to Am I the Genius? I think you're gonna love what they're making over there. It's a great channel and you should definitely check it out. Everything will be linked down below in the description. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.